Chapter 332. Qingyan Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Yu Haoran slowly exhaled the turbid air that had accumulated in his chest due to his breakthrough. Then, he slowly opened his eyes, which flashed with a trace of light. Yu Haoran, how is it? I didn't lie to you, did I? Thowling immediately boasted proudly when he saw Yu Haoran slowly opening his eyes. Yu Haoran did not give any response to this. This was because it was just as Thowling had said. When one's cultivation reached the peak of 4th grade martial master, not only was the accumulation from the breakthrough not completely consumed, there's also a large portion of potential that had not been stimulated. This portion of potential that had not been stimulated was the energy hidden in the body when one's cultivation and body broke through to the 10th grade complete realm. It was with the help of his cultivation and the huge potential of the legendary 10th grade complete realm that he was able to smoothly break through to the 5th grade martial master and directly reach the middle of the 5th grade martial master. Therefore, although he was embarrassed to respond to Thowling's boasting, he was still very happy in his heart. Taking out a few 7th grade spirit stones, Yu Haoran used the abundant spirit chi in the 7th grade spirit stones to consolidate the cultivation he had just broken through while discussing with Thowling. Thowling, now that my cultivation has broken through to the middle of the 5th grade martial master, the accumulation and potential of the realm have basically been exhausted. It is not suitable for me to continue increasing my cultivation in the short term. Do you think I should concentrate on cultivating for a period of time, or immediately break through to the physical body realm? There is no need to consider anything. Directly break through to the physical body realm. Faced with Yu Haoran's choice, Thowling directly told him to choose the physical body realm, and gave him the reason to immediately break through to the physical body realm, as well as the huge gains after the breakthrough. Yu Haoran, the physical body realm is different from the cultivation realm. The cultivation realm requires a deep accumulation, comprehension of the realm, rich experience, and a state of mind that matches the realm. However, the physical body realm does not need to be so troublesome. As long as your physical body is strong enough and has enough energy to support the physical body realm, it will be fine. At this point, the pagoda genie gestured for Yu Haoran to take out the white wolf's blood essence and half of a unicorn's horn. Yu Haoran, the white wolf's blood essence contains the bloodline of the divine beast, the howling firmament wolf. It can be fused into the formation that gathers the power of the stars, increasing the might of the astral battle technique tenfold. It's enough to allow your physical body to break through the martial master realm and reach the peak of 3rd grade martial master. Half of a unicorn's horn contains 1/10 of the unicorn's blood essence. Apart from half of the horn and 1/10 of the blood essence needed to increase the offensive power of the natal magic weapon, the remaining 9/10 of the blood essence is enough to raise the grade of your body to a 5th grade martial master. Thowling said excitedly as he took out dozens of elixirs from the victor that could be used to enhance the grade of the body. If we include these spiritual medicines and high-quality spiritual stones, I believe that the breakthrough in your physical body's grade might even surpass the breakthrough in your cultivation. You might even reach the peak of grade 5 martial master or even grade 6 martial master. Yu Haoran, if your physical body is upgraded to a 6th grade martial master, then combined with your 5th grade mid-stage martial master cultivation and Emperor Wu's early stage potential, I'm afraid your strength will reach the peak of a 9th grade martial master. Thowling, after I consolidate my cultivation base, I'll immediately break through the grade of my physical body. Thowling's alluring temptation made Yu Haoran extremely excited. At the same time, he immediately decided to make a breakthrough in his physical body. Fortunately, his strong mental state cultivation allowed him to maintain a clear mind and distinguish the severity of the matter. He knew that what he needed to do the most now was to properly consolidate his cultivation after breaking through. With the help of the abundant spiritual chi in the 7th grade spiritual stone, Yu Haoran began to consolidate his cultivation bit by bit. However, because he had directly broken through from the peak of a 10th grade martial warrior to the mid-stage of a 5th grade martial master, he had crossed a large realm, 5 small realms, and 21 small stages. He needed to consolidate each stage one by one, which took a relatively long time. 2 hours later, after consolidating his cultivation base to the early stage of a 4th grade martial master, the spiritual chi in the 7th grade, 3rd grade spiritual stone in his hand had been completely exhausted. Yu Haoran was about to replace it with a new spiritual stone when he suddenly heard Thaling's puzzled voice. The speed at which he returned to Qingyun Peak is too fast. He has basically reached the level of teleportation using the law of space. That's not right. Not good, Yu Haoran. Not only has your master been poisoned, he has also used the demonic blood escape technique to escape for his life. Right now, he only has half of his life left. Because Feng Qingyun had comprehended the law of space, Thaling did not dare to rashly use his divine sense to check the movements of Qingyun Peak. However, Feng Qingyun, who had used the demonic blood escape technique to escape, was unable to perfectly control his aura. This still attracted Thaling's attention. Thus, he took a risk and used his divine sense to check. In the end, he saw Feng Qingyun's terrible condition and immediately reported it to Yu Haoran. What? Hearing that his master was seriously injured, Yu Haoran stood up in shock. Afterwards, he did not continue consolidating his cultivation base and directly used his movement technique to rush to the upright residence. Although the door to the upright residence was tightly shut, Yu Haoran, who was worried about his master's safety, directly pushed open the door and entered the courtyard. After seeing a few drops of blood on the ground in the courtyard, Yu Haoran's face instantly became gloomy. Then, following Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran went straight to the cultivation room. Seeing the pool of blood in front of the cultivation room, Yu Haoran squatted down and carefully examined it. He did not find any trace of poison in the blood, which made him immediately nervous. Reaching out to push open the stone door of the cultivation room, Yu Haoran stepped into the cultivation room and immediately saw Feng Qingyun lying flat on the ground, his clothes covered in blood and his aura completely gone. As a martial saint expert who had comprehended the law of space, even if he was unconscious, his body would instinctively form a self-defense mechanism. Therefore, Yu Haoran did not rashly go forward to check. Instead, he signaled Thaling to use his powerful divine sense to help him check the condition of his master's body. Yu Haoran, your master's current injuries are mainly caused by 2 things. Although Feng Qingyun's self-defense mechanism had reached the level of a martial saint, Thaling's divine sense, which was close to that of a martial saint, was still able to penetrate the self-defense mechanism and clearly check the condition of his body. After a careful examination, Thaling explained Feng Qingyun's current condition in detail. The first reason for his serious injuries is that your master used the demonic blood escape technique that was created by the white-haired demoness who had reached the level of Emperor Wu 30,000 years ago. Yu Haoran, do you have any understanding of the demonic blood escape technique? Shaking his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he did not know. In his previous life, although he had come into contact with many demonic past secret techniques, he was limited by his own cultivation and strength. Secret techniques like the white-haired demoness, who had reached the level of Emperor Wu, were completely lost. Either they had been completely lost, or they were in the hands of a demonic path giant. With his cultivation and strength at that time, it was impossible for him to come into contact with such a top-notch demonic path secret technique. The demonic blood escape technique burns more than half of one's blood in exchange for the ability to teleport. It is one of the top 10 escape techniques in the Tianxian continent. Yu Haoran, in order to awaken the special physique in your bloodline, you have also studied the importance of energy to a martial artist. Instantly losing more than half of one's blood essence is a serious injury to a martial artist. I'm sure you're clear on this. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he understood and then continued to ask. Chapter 333. Clear Cloud Peak, Righteous Peace Residence. Although losing half of one's blood essence in an instant would weaken a cultivator's strength, and in serious cases, it could even cause one's cultivation level to drop. However, a cultivator's powerful hematopoietic ability could still make up for the lost blood essence, but it would take a longer time. During this trial in the Blue Moon Secret Realm, Yuhauran had obtained many top-notch elixirs that could be used to replenish blood essence. Moreover, as someone who was proficient in the art of alchemy, he also had a few elixirs and elixirs that could increase blood essence and could be refined at this stage. Therefore, regarding the first reason for his master's heavy injuries, he was confident that he could treat him and completely recover in a short period of time. The second reason for your master's heavy injuries is a type of huge poison, a poison that I have never seen or heard of before. Thaling said gloomily. Thaling, who had received the memories of the dead weapon spirit, could be considered to have experienced the ancient era, the middle era, and the recent era, as well as the current era for who knows how many hundreds or even millions of years. The number of poisons that he had seen and heard of was no less than 100,000. However, there was actually a poison that he did not know about. How could this not make him gloomy? Thaling, tell me in detail about the damage caused by this poison. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Thaling did not know the specific origin of this poison. This made Yuhauran nervous. In his previous life, as someone who entered the Tao through poison and eventually became the vicious Sword Emperor, although he did not dare to claim to be the best in the world in terms of understanding of poisons, the number of people who could surpass him in the Tao of poison could not be more than one hand. With such a profound Tao of poison, Yuhauran had two types of poisons that he was more wary of. The first type was the poison that was left behind from the ancient era, the middle era, and the recent era. For poisons like this, because most of the elixirs used to make the antidote had been lost and extinct, it was basically a poison without an antidote. The second type was a poison that was made by a poison Tao grandmaster who was proficient in the Tao of poison according to his own unique ideas. Although there was a way to cure this poison, making the antidote, not only did it take a long time, but the process of making the antidote was also more dangerous. Yuhauran, this poison is very special. It doesn't target your master's physical body and blood. Instead, it targets his spirit in Yuan Li. Moreover, this kind of attack doesn't directly injure him. Instead, it's more like a seal. Your master won't be able to use his spirit in Yuan Qi for a very long time. He'll basically be a cripple. Thaling explained in surprise as he carefully observed the damage done to Yufeng Qingyan. Thaling, use your divine thoughts to check my master's body. See if it's weak now. After listening to Thaling's detailed description of the damage caused by the poison, a familiar memory surfaced in his mind. However, whether or not it was the kind of poison he had guessed needed further confirmation. That's right. Not only is your master's body weak and powerless now, he can't even take care of himself. Thaling nodded. After replying to Yuhauran, he wanted to use his divine sense to extract a trace of the toxin, intending to study it carefully. No, this is the first time I've seen such a strange poison. I have to see the specific concoction process of this poison. Thaling, if you don't want your spirit to be sealed by the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder, you can give it a try. Yuhauran hurriedly threatened when he saw that Thaling was actually so bold as to use the power of his spirit to analyze the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder that could harm one's spirit in Yuan Li. 7 worms and 7 flowers powder. Yuhauran, could it be that you know the origin of this poison? Thaling asked in surprise when he heard Yuhauran mention the name of the poison that had poisoned Yufeng Qingyan. I know more than that, Yuhauran said with a bitter smile. Because the reason why the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder was able to become a poison pill in the end and was ranked 19th in the Tianxian Continent Hunter Poisons was entirely because of me. Due to the uniqueness of poison cultivation, martial artists who cultivated the way of poison not only had gloomy personalities, but also acted without consideration. This caused the majority of poison cultivators to like to be alone and rarely come into contact with others. At the same time, due to the fact that martial artists who cultivated the way of poison cultivation were mostly arrogant and selfish, They all believed that the poisons they concocted and the poison pills they refined were invincible. This caused the poison cultivators to have very few friends. However, Yu Haoran had a friend in the way of poison cultivation in his previous life. This person was the five poison sect's most senior and had the deepest cultivation in the way of poison. He was known as the Grand Elder, the five poisons old man. In terms of the way of poison cultivation, the gap between Yu Haoran and the five poisons old man was extremely large. This gap was not only reflected in their cultivation, but also in their understanding and comprehension of the way of poison. However, due to his adventurous nature, he often ventured into ruins, forbidden grounds, secret realms, and caves left behind by experts. This caused his knowledge and understanding of new poisons to far surpass the five poisons old man. Therefore, due to their very similar life experiences, as well as their complementarity in the way of poison cultivation, the two of them had become friends despite their age difference. The 7 insects, 7 flower powder was actually an idea that the five poisons old man had come up with several decades ago. He had hoped to use the 7 insects, 7 flower powder to kill a strong enemy of the martial, honorable realm. However, due to his limited experience, he had never succeeded in concocting it. After the two of them had become friends despite their age difference, Yu Haoran had relied on his rich experience and the five poisons old man's deep cultivation in the way of poison to successfully concoct the 7 insects, 7 flower powder that could kill a martial honorable expert. Furthermore, Yu Haoran had also used his own alchemy skills to finally refine the 7 insects, 7 flower powder into a poison pill. Yu Haoran, this means that you have confidence in dispelling the poison of the 7 insects, 7 flower powder. After hearing Yu Haoran explain in detail how he knew about the 7 insects, 7 flower powder, Faling exclaimed in surprise. After all, at the current stage, Yu Haoran still needed the protection of Feng Qingyun, a martial saint expert who had comprehended the power of special laws. That's right. After nodding his head, Yu Haoran's tone changed, and he said with a bitter expression, "However, to dispel the poison of the 7 insects, 7 flower powder, I need 7 types of poisonous insects and 7 types of poisonous spiritual herbs. Right now, I have 6 types of poisonous spiritual herbs in my collection. They can be used to concoct the antidote for the 7 insects, 7 flower powder. The poison in the source of poison can also replace the 6 types of poisonous insects. What about the other 2 types?" After hearing the number of spiritual herbs and poisonous insects that Yu Haoran had given, Faling realized that 2 types were missing and could not help but ask. Actually, the missing spiritual herb and poisonous insect can be categorized as one type. This type of special poisonous insect is called a plant insect. It is a mysterious spiritual object that is between a spiritual herb and a poisonous insect. Not only is it rare, but the environment in which it lives is also very dangerous. Speaking of the plant insect, Yu Haoran could not help but sigh. This was because the plant insect was not an independent existence. It was a type of parasite that could only appear in the body of a special type of mutated beast. As for that special type of mutated beast, not to mention his current strength, even in his previous life, he had to reach the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm and the cooperation of 9 5 poison sect martial saints to finally kill that mutated beast and find the plant insect in its body. Where is it? To be able to make Yu Haoran, who was good at taking risks, say that it was very dangerous, it was enough to show that the environment in which the plant insect lived was dangerous enough to sense his life. Therefore, Faling asked, "When we reach that place, I will tell you." For the time being, he did not reveal the location of the plant insect because Yu Haoran was very clear in his heart. If Faling knew that he had to face that type of mutated beast, he would definitely not agree to take the risk. However, a teacher was like a father to him. In order to help his teacher completely recover, Yu Haoran could only take the risk. Furthermore, taking the risk was not a joke with his own life. Chapter 334. Qingyan Peak, Pingzheng Residence. Yu Haoran, if the danger level of that place is beyond our control, I hope you can tell me in advance." Seeing that Yu Haoran was unwilling to reveal the specific location of the plant insects, Thaling could basically guess the reason. Although he knew that he could not change Yu Haoran's mind, Thaling still hoped that he could consider whether it was worth the risk under the premise of ensuring his own safety. Moreover, the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder that your master was inflicted with only sealed his divine soul in Yuan Li. It will not have any effect on his life. So, you have enough time and energy to improve your cultivation and strength. When you are 100% sure that you are safe, then you can find the plant insects needed to make the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder. Thaling, don't worry. In order to reassure Thaling, Yu Haoran could only promise the final plan. If I am not 100% sure, I will never joke with my life. Okay, I believe you. After receiving Yu Haoran's promise, Thaling nodded, believing that Yu Haoran would not joke with his life. Glancing at his master lying on the ground, Yu Haoran bent his knees and sat down cross-legged. Then he took out 39 spirit herbs from the 2 storage rings, the storage ear and the victor. Mobilizing the Dantian fire, he began to refine these spirit herbs. After refining for nearly 2 hours, a total of 39 spirit herbs were completely refined into spirit liquid. Then, using different alchemy techniques, the 39 spirit liquids were mixed and separated in different ways, finally forming 2 drops of spirit liquid the size of a green apple. Because there was no earth core fire at the bottom of Qingyan Peak, and the 2 elixirs required extremely high temperatures to refine, so for the time being, they could only be refined into spirit liquid. Fortunately, even spirit liquid was enough to heal part of his master's injuries. Thaling, help me send this drop of spirit liquid in my master's body first, Yu Haoran said, raising his left hand, which exuded a trace of calming aura. All right. Using his spiritual sense, Thaling directly sent the spiritual liquid into Feng Qingyun's body. As the ball of spirit liquid with a calming aura entered Feng Qingyun's body, the originally lifeless Feng Qingyun's chest not only began to rise and fall slowly, but the aura of a martial saint also gradually rose from his body. This meant that Feng Qingyun was about to wake up. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Feng Qingyun slowly opened his eyes after the ball of spirit liquid had completely merged with his body. After seeing himself lying in the familiar cultivation room, his originally nervous expression immediately relaxed. However, when he saw the person sitting cross-legged on the ground with his legs bent and his right hand holding a ball of spiritual liquid that emitted a strong qi and blood, a look of shock flashed across his eyes. "Master, don't say anything. Drink this spiritual liquid first." Yu Haoran reminded Feng Qingyun when he saw that Feng Qingyun had taken the initiative to disperse his protective power after waking up. He wrapped the spirit liquid in his hand with his elemental energy and sent it directly to Feng Qingyun. Nodding his head, Feng Qingyun opened his mouth and swallowed the spiritual liquid. Then, using the rich qi and blood contained in the spiritual liquid, he began to make up for the loss of blood essence caused by using the demonic blood escape. After a full 20 minutes, Feng Qingyun's originally pale face, which did not have a trace of blood, gradually became rosy after refining the spiritual liquid that contained rich qi and blood. After seeing Feng Qingyun open his eyes, Yu Haoran immediately asked with a murderous look, "Master, who poisoned you?" After his rebirth, Yu Haoran only truly cared about 3 people in his heart. One was his elder sister Yusiki, who had the same father and mother. Another was the fairy-like girl who gave him a new life and saved him more than once. The last one was his master, who treated him like his own father. In Yu Haoran's heart, whoever dared to harm these 3 people, he would not be able to live under the same sky with them. If he did not exterminate their entire family, it will be difficult to eliminate the hatred in his heart. "Haoran, this matter has nothing to do with you. You don't need to interfere, and don't ask too many questions." How could Feng Qingyun not know what Yu Haoran was thinking when he saw his murderous look? Not only was Zhao Qing a martial saint who had comprehended the power of law, he was also a mid-stage Emperor Pill master. Moreover, He had countless powerful followers and helpers by his side. Not to mention Yu Haoran. Even Feng Qingyan would not dare to casually seek revenge on Zhao Qing before he could break through to the next level. Therefore, how could he possibly tell his disciple who the culprit was? Seeing that his master was unwilling to reveal who the culprit was, Yu Haoran did not continue to ask. This was because he had plenty of methods to find out who the culprit was through his own methods. When the time came, he would let the culprit taste the cruelest torture in the world and make him beg for death. All right, Haoran, what were the 2 spiritual liquids you gave me earlier? Seeing that Yu Haoran had stopped asking who the culprit was, Feng Qingyun inwardly sighed in relief. Then he suddenly remembered that he would need at least half a year to recover from his severe injuries. He hurriedly asked, "Master, before I became your disciple, I received the inheritance of a pill master. Although I'm limited by my cultivation and am only a grandmaster pill master, as my cultivation increases, I will be able to reach the level of a peak Emperor Realm pill master sooner or later. If I can obtain a strange flame that can help me refine pills, I will even be able to reach the level of a sage pill master." Knowing that he would not be able to hide his pill refining abilities sooner or later, Yu Haoran had already thought of a way to deal with this when he became Feng Qingyun's disciple. Therefore, he did not blush and his heart did not skip a beat as he spoke with a straight face. Being able to reach the level of a peak Emperor Realm pill master, Feng Qingyun could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when he heard that his disciple would be able to reach the level of a pill master in the future. The Medicine King Valley's overall strength could barely squeeze into the ranks of first-rate sect. The strongest person, Elder Yao, was only a peak 9th level martial saint. However, even the sect masters of the top 7 sects, the emperors of the 3 great empires, and wandering cultivators who had reached the level of a martial saint dared not offend the Medicine King Valley. Based on what? Why was Zhao Qing, who was only a 1st level martial saint, able to command the 3 martial saints of the first-rate sect, the Sacred Church of Darkness? Based on what? It was because of their profound alchemy skills that could help martial sages and martial venerables improve their cultivation and strength. If Yu Haoran's pill refining skills could reach the level of an early Emperor Realm pill master, then any faction would treat him as a guest of honor. If his pill refining skills could reach the level of a mid-Emperor Realm pill master, then he would be able to command martial saints to work for him, just like Zhao Qing. If his pill refining skills could reach the level of a peak Emperor Realm pill master, then even the families of inheritance would show goodwill and take the initiative to befriend him. If his pill refining skills could reach the level of a Sage Realm pill master, as he said, then his pill refining skills could reach the level of a Sage Realm pill master. Even if his cultivation was only at the level of a martial saint, then he could become a decision-maker that could influence the future of the profound sky continent. Influence was only secondary. The main reason Feng Qingyun saw Yu Haoran's pill refining potential was because the higher his pill refining skills, the fewer people would dare to harm him. After all, the assistance of pills was as important as talent and potential in the cultivation process of a cultivator. Moreover, there were very few pill masters in the profound sky continent, and even fewer pill masters. The number of pill masters could be counted on one hand. Chapter 335. Qingyan Peak, Upright Residence. Since he knew that his disciple had the potential to become an alchemy grandmaster, Feng Qingyun began to think for Yu Haoran. "Haoran, after I recover from my injuries, I'll think of a way to gather the best earth core fire and place it in your cultivation room. I'll also do my best to help you find and fight for the best deviant flames to improve your alchemy skills. Master, there's no rush to improve my alchemy skills. What we should consider now is how to help you recover from your injuries in the shortest time possible." Seeing that his master did not mention his injuries, Yu Haoran knew that his master did not want him to worry about him. However, as his disciple, how could he turn a blind eye and not ask? "Haoran, you don't have to worry about my injuries. I have my own ways to solve them." Waving his hand, Feng Qingyun did not want Yu Haoran to worry about his injuries, so he began to think of ways to divert his attention. "That's right, Haoran. How's the training in the Blue Moon's secret realm? Has your Dantian recovered? How's your accumulation before breaking through? Because his spirit and origin power were sealed, he could not use his divine sense. Therefore, when Yuhauran did not use his origin power, he could not check on Yuhauran's current state. Therefore, he did not know that Yuhauran had already broken through to the martial master realm. Master, the damage to my Dantian has been completely healed. There are things in the Blue Moon's secret realm that can repair and strengthen. Since his master had clearly expressed that he did not want to talk about his injuries, Yuhauran could not continue to harp on this issue. Therefore, he recounted his experiences in the Blue Moon's secret realm in detail. For example, the redwood boar that wanted to use the pet beast contract to leave the Blue Moon's secret realm. The enchanted beast that controlled the consciousness of living creatures and planned to use the blood sacrifice array to break through the barrier of the secret realm. The palace that was able to suppress and command the secret realm's rules with its own valiant strength. The level 5 spirit vein that could produce its own consciousness and advance to the level 5 emperor realm in the secret realm. After hearing Yuhauran's detailed description of his experiences in the Blue Moon secret realm, Feng Qingyan was shocked. At the same time, he was also very puzzled by the situation in the Blue Moon secret realm. The Blue Moon secret realm had been opened more than a dozen times. Although there would be unexpected dangers or extraordinarily powerful exotic beasts every time the secret realm opened, it had never been as dangerous as what Yuhauran had experienced. There were so many extraordinarily powerful exotic beasts. Hauran, the fact that you were able to survive in such a dangerous mystic realm and gain a good harvest in the end is enough to show that your strength, your vision, your adaptability, and your courage have far exceeded my expectations. Master has nothing to say about this. Feng Qingyan sighed. Feng Qingyan's sigh also made Yuhauran feel a lingering fear. If it weren't for the fact that he had made friends with Palace in his previous life and was familiar with his background and temperament, he wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. If it weren't for the fact that he had obtained a secret transformation technique in his previous life that allowed him to transform into a Vajra monkey with the strength of a martial emperor. If it weren't for the fact that he had seen the bloodthirsty and tyrannical side of the unicorn in his previous life and guessed that it was the unicorn behind the scenes that targeted Palace, then, in this trial of the Blue Moon secret realm, not to mention the treasures in the end, it would already be very good if he could come back alive. However, when he thought of the origin energy fruits that he had obtained, Yuhauran hurriedly took them out and presented them in front of Feng Qingyan. Master, this is the origin energy fruit that you asked me to fight for back then. I did not disappoint you and took it back. After receiving the origin energy fruit from Yuhauran, Feng Qingyan explained with a smile. Hauran, when I asked you to fight for the origin energy fruit, I was worried that you would not be able to break through to the martial master realm in a short period of time due to your damaged Dantian. So, I prepared a method to break through in advance. Now, after going through the bloody trial of the Blue Moon secret realm, I believe that your current accumulation of cultivation is enough for you to break through to the martial master realm. Nodding his head, Yuhauran did not reveal that he had not only successfully broken through to the 5th grade of martial master, but also advanced to the middle stage of the 5th grade of martial master in one go. Since you can rely on your own comprehension to break through to the martial master realm, then there is no need for this origin energy fruit. After receiving Yuhauran's nod of confirmation, Feng Qingyan said casually as he returned the origin energy fruit to Yuhauran, "Keep it first and give it to a fated person in the future." All right. Originally, Yuhauran only wanted to show this origin energy fruit to his master. If his master needed it, then he would give it to him. If his master did not need it, then he would either give it to someone else or continue to use it to refine pills. Hauran, when I left Qingyan Peak this time, I actually went to the Medicine King Valley. My purpose was very simple. Firstly, I wanted to help you refine a pill that could repair your Dantian. Secondly, I wanted to help your eldest senior brother refine a pill that could increase the power of his soul and help him break through to the Martial King realm so that he could continue to increase his cultivation quickly. Speaking of this, Feng Qingyun revealed a trace of self-blame. Your eldest senior brother's pill was relatively smooth, but refining a pill that could repair his dantian was more troublesome. Because the amount of herbs needed to refine this pill far exceeded my imagination. In the end, I was unable to find a pill that could repair his dantian. Seeing that Feng Qingyun was blaming himself, Yu Haoran hurriedly consoled him. Master, didn't I just say it? With the help of the channel grass in the Blue Moon's secret realm, not only did he repair his damaged dantian, but he also strengthened his dantian and meridians, increasing his own potential. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. You're right. After hearing Yu Haoran's consolation, Feng Qingyun nodded his head. Then, he took out a spirit fruit that was the size of a fist and emitted a strong fragrance from his storage ring. Inside the spirit fruit, one could faintly see a mysterious dragon dancing in the air. Without waiting for Feng Qingyun to introduce it, Yu Haoran cried out in surprise. The mysterious dragon fruit, and it's a level 6, grade 9 mysterious dragon fruit. Haoran, it looks like you recognize the mysterious dragon fruit as well. Seeing that Yu Haoran not only recognized the mysterious dragon fruit, but was also able to identify its grade at a glance, Feng Qingyun could not help but believe him when he said that he had received the inheritance of an alchemy grandmaster. The mysterious dragon fruit is one of the top spirit fruits in the Tianxian continent. The spirit fruit contains a trace of the dragon qi of the 9 heavens mysterious dragon. Not only can it increase the grade of a cultivator's physical body, it can also strengthen the meridians and blood vessels in a cultivator's body, as well as their internal organs by dozens of times. At the same time, with the mysterious dragon fruit as the main ingredient and 28 supplementary herbs, one can refine a level 6 mysterious dragon pill that is suitable for cultivators of the Martial King realm and above to increase the grade of their physical body. Yu Haoran introduced the various effects of the mysterious dragon fruit in detail. That's right, Feng Qingyun exclaimed as he handed the mysterious dragon fruit to Yu Haoran. Chapter 336. Qingyun Peak, Peace Abode. Receiving the mysterious dragon fruit from Feng Qingyun, Yu Haoran asked nervously, Master, where did you get this mysterious dragon fruit? Falling Heaven Cliff. Feng Qingyun casually replied. Hearing Feng Qingyun's casual tone, Yu Haoran knew something was wrong and quickly asked, Master, when you got the mysterious dragon fruit, what did you do with the mysterious dragon spirit tree? I gave it away, not understanding why Yu Haoran would be so worried about a useless spirit tree. Feng Qingyun answered truthfully. Is it someone you know? Can you use the mysterious dragon fruit to exchange for it? As expected, Yu Haoran could not help but feel disappointed after hearing his master's answer. However, his master's casual tone indicated that the person he gave the spirit tree to was very familiar with. Thus, a glimmer of hope rose in Yu Haoran's heart, and he quickly asked, Haoran, what's going on? Seeing that Yu Haoran was willing to use the precious mysterious dragon fruit to exchange for the worthless mysterious dragon spirit tree, Feng Qingyun gradually realized that something was wrong. Master, let me give you an example. Seeing that Feng Qingyun was still unclear about the difference between the mysterious dragon fruit and the mysterious dragon spirit tree, Yu Haoran could only use an example to explain the huge difference in value between the two. If the mysterious dragon fruit is a 10th grade spirit stone, then the mysterious dragon spirit tree is a 5th grade 9th grade spirit stone. The difference between the two is several hundred times. How is this possible? Feng Qingyun looked at Yu Haoran in disbelief and repeatedly muttered, Master, the reason why the mysterious dragon fruit can increase the grade of a cultivator's physical body is mainly because of the trace of 9th heaven mysterious dragon qi within the fruit. Yu Haoran continued to explain as he pointed at the profound dragon dancing within the profound dragon fruit. Not only does the mysterious dragon spirit tree contain a large amount of mysterious dragon qi, there is also a trace of blood essence left behind by the 9th heaven mysterious dragon in its trunk. And this trace of 9th heaven mysterious dragon's blood essence is the mysterious dragon spirit tree's greatest value. I see, no wonder. After hearing Yu Haoran's detailed explanation, Feng Qingyun closed his eyes, his heart filled with regret. When he had first discovered the mysterious dragon spirit tree, it was no wonder that Zhao Qing and his other friend, who was proficient in Pill Dao, had generously given the mysterious dragon fruit to him. Their original goal had been the mysterious dragon spirit tree, which was worth hundreds of times more than the mysterious dragon fruit. Back then, he had been deeply grateful to them and had even promised to save them if they were in trouble. Zhao Qing was not the only one with evil intentions. Perhaps another person whom he thought was his best friend was also harboring evil intentions towards him. Master, since I can't exchange for it, then forget it. With this mystical dragon fruit, it's enough to help my physical body improve to the next level. Feeling Feng Qingyun's depressed mood, Yu Haoran knew that his showing off just now had caused his master to blame himself and regret, so he quickly comforted him. I'm fine. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the regret and anger in his heart, Feng Qingyun indicated that he was fine. Then, he continued to ask, Haoran, what are the effects of a spirit tree like the mysterious dragon fruit? How can it be used? Although he did not know why his master was so insistent on the mysterious dragon spirit tree, since he had already asked, Yu Haoran did not hide anything and explained. The mysterious dragon spirit tree has 3 uses. The first use is the same as the mysterious dragon fruit. It is to extract the 9 heavens mysterious dragon chi from the spirit tree and directly use it to improve the physical body. However, using the 9 heavens mysterious dragon chi directly is only for ordinary people. If it's a Pill Dao Grandmaster who has reached the Emperor realm, it's basically the same as using the profound dragon fruit. Using the profound 9 heavens dragon chi and a large amount of precious supplementary herbs, they can refine a higher grade and more effective profound dragon pill. The second use is to extract the 9 heavens mysterious dragon blood essence from the tree trunk and assimilate it into the body. Not only will the user possess 1% of the 9 heavens mysterious dragon's defensive abilities, but they will also have a chance to inherit the 9 heavens mysterious dragon's bloodline. However, although the 9 heavens mysterious dragon is not a divine dragon, as the descendant of a divine beast, the energy contained in its blood essence is not something that an ordinary person can withstand. In order to refine the 9 heavens mysterious dragon's blood essence, one's physical body must at least be at the peak of the martial emperor realm. Otherwise, forcefully assimilating it into the body will only result in one's body exploding and dying. The third use is the trunk of the mysterious dragon spirit tree. It can be used to refine weapons. Due to the nourishment of the 9 heavens mysterious dragon blood essence, the trunk of the mysterious dragon spirit tree is extremely sturdy and contains a trace of the 9 heavens mysterious dragon's draconic aura. Using the trunk of the mysterious dragon spirit tree, one can refine weapons of at least the Saint realm. However, due to the mysterious dragon spirit tree's overly sturdy trunk, there are no more than 3 people in the entire Tianxian continent who can use the mysterious dragon spirit tree to refine weapons. Moreover, all 3 of them are in the weapon refining sect. Thank goodness. After hearing Yu Haoran's detailed explanation of the 3 uses of the mysterious dragon spirit tree, Feng Qingyun could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Although Zhao Qing's skill in the art of alchemy was very high, he was a person who placed great importance on enjoyment. Just from the fact that he had more than 10 mistresses, one could see how indulgent he usually was. Therefore, even though his cultivation was already at the level of a martial saint, his physical body had barely reached the level of a 9th grade grandmaster. Furthermore, his status as a grandmaster of alchemy made him extremely arrogant. Apart from those who could surpass him in the art of alchemy, he did not think much of anyone else. 3 years ago, a vice-sect leader of the weapon refining sect, who was also the younger brother of the current weapon refining sect leader, had personally asked Zhao Qing to refine a pill that could increase one's fire elemental energy. However, due to the other party's offer, Zhao Qing was extremely dissatisfied. Not only did he not refine the pill for the other party, he even humiliated the other party and chased him out of the valley of the medicine masters. If Zhao Qing wanted the weapon-refining sex master of alchemy to refine weapons for him, it would be a pipe dream. Therefore, in the short term, the other party would not use the mystical dragon tree. This gave Feng Qingyun a chance to make up for it. Since there was a chance to make up for it, Feng Qingyun did not want to waste any more time. Therefore, he took out a pill bottle from his storage ring and handed it to Yu Haoran. Haoran, this is a pill that can be used to increase the strength of one's soul. Give it to your senior so that he can break through to the Martial King realm as soon as possible. I need to hurry up and recover. Master, don't worry too much about your injuries. Disciple has a way to help you recover your sealed soul and origin energy. Yu Haoran took the pill bottle from Feng Qingyun and bowed to bid farewell as he reminded Feng Qingyun. Looking at Yu Haoran slowly leaving the cultivation room, Feng Qingyun's face revealed a gratified smile as he recalled Yu Haoran's reminder. Even though he had been betrayed by two of his best friends, he had gained a disciple who was extremely loyal and had outstanding talent and potential. All in all, not only did he not suffer a loss, he actually gained a huge advantage. After leaving the righteous abode, Yu Haoran went straight to his senior and gave him the pill that his master had entrusted to him. After telling him to break through to the Martial King realm as soon as possible, Yu Haoran returned to the Hidden Moon Court. However, after returning to the Hidden Moon Court, he did not return to the cultivation room. Instead, he stood in the yard and looked up at the sky. At this time, the sun had already set in the west. The endless rosy clouds dyed the entire sky red. Yu Haoran, tonight will be a night filled with stars. It's the best time for you to use the formation that gathers the power of the stars to break through the grade of your physical body. The pagoda's spirit encouraged. Chapter 337. Qingyan Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Night fell, and the stars rose. After nearly 2.5 hours of cultivation, Yu Haoran finally consolidated his mid-5th grade martial master cultivation. Exhaling the turbid qi accumulated in his chest, he looked up at the dazzling stars in the sky, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. Then, he connected his mind to the storage ear and took out the pill bottle containing the white wolf's blood essence and half of the unicorn's horn. Thaling, help me extract the unicorn's blood essence from the horn. After instructing Thaling, Yu Haoran stood up and took out 9 drops of white wolf's blood essence from the pill bottle. He used the white wolf's blood essence to replace his yuan qi and began to condense the imprint of the star-gathering formation. When the first imprint condensed by the white wolf's blood essence was completely formed, Yu Haoran was surprised to find that the power of the stars involved in the first imprint condensed by just 1 drop of white wolf's blood essence was almost equivalent to the sum of the power of the stars that he had drawn when he used yuan qi to condense the 9 imprints. No wonder the ancient mythological beast, Sky-Howling Wolf, was respected as the ancestor of the moon. It was probably inextricably linked to the most dazzling moon in the sky. The white wolf's blood essence's powerful attraction to the power of the stars made Yu Haoran's confidence double. His 10 fingers sped up the speed of forming seals, and he used the white wolf's blood essence to form the imprints of the formation one by one. When the 9th imprint was pressed heavily on the ground under his feet, the formation that had completely formed to gather the power of the stars instantly erupted with an unimaginable attraction force. This powerful attraction force caused the power of the stars to rush into Hidden Moon Pavilion like a waterfall. In just half an hour, the entire courtyard of Hidden Moon Pavilion had been completely filled with the power of the stars. Even the power of the stars in the center of the formation had a faint tendency to liquefy. Fortunately, Thaling, who was familiar with the power of the white wolf's blood essence, had already used his powerful mind to help him cover up the commotion caused by the power of the stars. Otherwise, even the 5th-order Emperor Realm exotic beasts in the depths of the mountain range would have been attracted by the power of the stars. Amazed at the power of the white wolf's blood essence to attract the power of the stars, Yu Haoran sat down cross-legged again. Then he took out hundreds of elixirs that could directly increase the power of the body from the storage ear and Victor. Then he sat down cross-legged, calmed his qi, and began to use the rich power of the stars to attack the physical grade of the martial master realm. Just as Yu Haoran started to attack the physical grade of the martial master realm with the help of the rich power of the stars, in a dense forest about 500 kilometers away from the 100 Chi Gate, Gong's son Yiming, who was covered in blood, looked solemnly at a huge gray wolf that was 6 meters tall in front of him. Behind Gong's son Yiming stood a young girl who was about 16 years old. She was wearing a long purple dress and a purple phoenix jade pendant. She had a peerless appearance. Looking at the huge gray wolf in front of her with a slightly panicked expression, Gong's son Yuding asked nervously, "Brother, what should we do?" "Sister, don't worry. Although this jungle wolf's body is huge, its true grade has just entered the 8th order. Brother has a way to defeat it." Turning his head and smiling at Gong's son Yiming, Gong's son Yiming indicated that he was fine. However, when he turned his head back, the smile on his face was instantly replaced by a solemn expression. A day ago, after he had finished his training in the Blue Moon Mystery Realm and parted ways with Yu Haoran, Gong's son Yiming had used his identity as an elite disciple and his understanding of the geography of the sect to sneak into the mountain where he lived without alerting anyone, while the ancient town sect's disciples had yet to return to the sect. Similarly, without alerting anyone, he brought his sister out of the ancient sect town. Originally, Gong's son Yiming thought that he would be able to successfully reach the 100 Chi Gate and become a disciple of Qingyan Peak. However, 5 hours ago, he suddenly encountered the disciples of the ancient sect who were in charge of killing him. Fortunately, the disciples he encountered had average talent and potential. Their cultivations had only just broken through to the martial master realm. This allowed him to successfully kill them without suffering any injuries. It was also from the other party that Gong's son Yiming found out why the sect had sent experts to kill him. He also finally understood the attitude of the ancient sect towards him leaving the sect without permission. Therefore, in order to avoid the pursuit of the sect's experts, he could only try his best to choose some secluded mountain paths and dense forests, hoping that he would be able to smoothly reach the 100 Chi Gate. Fortunately, he was now less than 500 miles away from the 100 Chi Gate. As long as he passed through this dense forest, he would be within the sphere of influence of the 100 Chi Gate. Even though the relationship between the ancient sect and the 100 Chi Gate was not shallow, the internal strife within the 100 Chi Gate was very serious. It was likely that the 100 Chi Gate would not allow the disciples of the ancient sect to casually step into their sphere of influence. Yu Shixiang, you were delighted when you made your move. However, you have caused me, Gong's son Yiming, to suffer greatly. If Yu Haoran had not killed the 3 martial king experts of the ancient sect, he would not have incurred the wrath of the upper echelons of the ancient sect. If it had not been for the anger of the upper echelons of the ancient sect, they would not have immediately investigated the disciples in the sect who were related to Yu Haoran. If the upper echelons of the sect had not investigated the disciples who were related to Yu Haoran, the news of him leaving the sect would not have been exposed in a short period of time. They would also not have sent experts to kill him. However, Gong's son Yiming also knew that in the face of the coercion of the 3 great sects, according to Yu Haoran's personality, it would not have been excessive even if he had slaughtered all the disciples of the 3 great sects on the spot. Just by killing the 3 martial king experts, it was enough to show that Yu Haoran had already tried his best to suppress the anger in his heart. Although he understood Yu Haoran's fierce attack, Gong's son Yiming could only smile bitterly as he looked at the jungle wolf in front of him that had just entered the 8th level. He could only take out the long whip magic weapon that Yu Haoran had given him, intending to fight with his life. Kill. Although the jungle wolf did not have the speed of the Gale wolf, its strong attack power also gave it the title of the jungle killer. Facing an opponent with strong attack power and strength, a defensive counterattack would definitely not work. Therefore, Gong's son Yiming took the initiative to attack. In the courtyard of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Fouling, lend me a hand. With the help of the rich, liquefied Chun Xing's power, Yu Haoran easily broke through the physical grade of the martial master realm. Different from a cultivation breakthrough, as long as one's body was strong enough, as long as one's willpower was strong enough, as long as one's energy was sufficient, the breakthrough of the physical grade could continue. In just over 2 hours, Howard had not only successfully broken through the physical grade of the Martial Master Realm, but also reached the middle of the 5th level of the Martial Master Realm, which was the same as his cultivation realm. However, after breaking through 5 small realms and 21 small ranks, the power of the stars drawn by the White Wolf's blood essence had been depleted. Although the stars in the sky were still dazzling, the power of the stars in the formation had become very dim. Now, with the power of the stars gathered in the formation, it was very difficult to break through to the 6th level of the Martial Master Realm, let alone break through to the 6th level of the Martial Master Realm. Therefore, Howard could only ask Thaling for help. Hearing Howard's request, Thaling directly sent the refined blood essence of the unicorn to Howard through his divine thoughts. Using the secret devouring technique, Howard began to devour the blood essence of a unicorn, which contained the bloodline of the ancient divine beast. As the blood essence of the unicorn was converted into pure energy and integrated into his body, his physical grade, which had been stagnant, quickly broke through again. Chapter 338. Qingyan Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. High 5th Grade Martial Master. Peak 5th Grade Martial Master. Early 6th Grade Martial Master. Unfortunately, Howard did not feel the slightest trace of the ancient divine beast's inheritance even after his physical body broke through to 6th Grade Martial Master and the unicorn's blood essence was completely consumed. This greatly reduced his originally joyous mood due to his physical body breaking through to 6th Grade Martial Master. Howard, if it's fated, it will be there. If it's not fated, don't force it. Thaling hurriedly comforted Howard when he felt the disappointment in his heart. Some things are completely dependent on luck. Since you didn't receive the bloodline inheritance of the ancient divine beast king, the heavenly winged mystical horse, it means that you and the ancient divine beast king, the heavenly winged mystical horse, are not fated. Thaling, don't worry, I'm fine. Howard's powerful state of mind only disappointed him for a brief moment. Soon, he adjusted his mood and signaled to the pagoda spirit that he was fine. Then, he used the not-so-rich power of the stars and the array formation to consolidate the grade of his body. At the same time, he experienced the increase in strength that came with the breakthrough of his body grade. While Howard was consolidating his physical body's grade, Gong Sun Yiming, whose body was covered in blood and whose aura had weakened to 7th Grade Martial Warrior, successfully broke through the forest with Gong Sun Yuding. Big brother, are you all right? Gong Sun Yuding asked worriedly when she saw Gong Sun Yiming's chaotic breathing, pale face, and body covered in blood. I'm fine. Gong Sun Yiming shook his head and turned to look at the forest behind him. His eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. Because this place was already within the 100 Chi Gates sphere of influence, this forest, which was suitable for low-level disciples, had long been cleared of high-grade exotic beasts. The jungle wolf he had encountered at the beginning could be considered one of the overlords of the forest. Although Sung Lang had entered the 8th rank, Gong Sun Yiming was also a peerless genius who had surpassed his own cultivation. Furthermore, he had a high-grade zone realm artifact to protect himself. Therefore, he only suffered some light injuries and successfully killed the jungle wolf. Most of the injuries on his body came from the experts of the ancient town sect who were chasing after him. As for those experts who were chasing after him, many of them were on good terms with him. They were his fellow disciples who knew his character very well. In the past, he had taken care of these people a lot. It was also because these people knew him very well that they were able to guess his possible escape route and successfully intercept him. Gong Sun Yiming's heart was filled with boundless killing intent as he thought of his fellow brothers, who treated him with utmost sincerity and treated him like an enemy. Just you wait. When I, Gong Sun Yiming, become strong, I will definitely let you have a taste of the consequences of betraying me. After shouting with boundless killing intent in his heart, Gong Sun Yiming took a deep breath, then turned around and comforted Gong Sun Yuding with a relaxed expression. Sister, after passing through this forest, we are now within the sphere of influence of the 100 Chi Gate. Those experts who are chasing after us will definitely not dare to cross this forest. You and I are finally safe. Brother, I'm afraid that we have just escaped from the tiger's den, and now we are about to fall into the wolf's den. Faced with Gong Sun Yiming's comforting words, Gong Sun Yuding did not relax. Instead, she looked nervously behind Gong Sun Yiming. Seeing his sister's nervous expression, Gong Sun Yiming hurriedly turned around. When he saw 5 martial artists wearing the uniform of the 100 Chi Gate's law enforcement peak, he hurriedly greeted them respectfully. Gong Sun Yiming greets the senior brothers of the 100 Chi Gate. Gong Sun Yiming, could it be that you are known as the one with the most outstanding talent and potential among the younger generation of the Ancient Town sect and the strongest in the martial warrior realm? After hearing Gong Sun Yiming's self-introduction, one of the 5 disciples from the law enforcement peak, who was already a 9th grade martial master, exclaimed in surprise. Senior brothers, that is just a false reputation. It is not worth mentioning. Hearing that the other party had heard of his reputation, Gong Sun Yiming hurriedly replied modestly. In this world, there were many narrow-minded people who not only envied and hated geniuses who had better talent and potential than them, but there were also some extremely vicious people who took pleasure in hunting geniuses. Therefore, Gong Sun Yiming was worried that the disciples of the 100 Gate that he had encountered were those narrow-minded people. Fortunately, the 5 disciples of the law enforcement peak who were in charge of patrolling were rather broad-minded. They did not feel the slightest bit of jealousy or hatred because of Gong Sun Yiming's outstanding talent and potential. Junior brother Gong Sun, you are an elite disciple who is highly valued in the Ancient Town sect. Why are you in such a sorry state in our 100 Gates territory? The disciple with the strongest cultivation asked doubtfully. It must be known that the degree of importance that Gong Sun Yiming received in the Ancient Town sect was almost the same as Ishuda, who had been captured alive by Yu Haoran some time ago. For disciples with such outstanding talent and potential, even if they did not have a martial king expert secretly protecting them when they left the sect, they would at least bring a few martial ancestor experts with them to avoid any accidents. But what about Gong Sun Yiming? It was as if the girl behind him was just an ordinary person who had yet to cultivate. Senior brothers, this is a long story. If there is time in the future, I will explain it to you in detail. Hearing the other party ask the reason for his appearance here, Gong Sun Yiming's heart tightened. Fortunately, the hardships of his youth made Gong Sun Yiming not reveal the slightest bit of nervousness. He only shook his head and laughed bitterly. Then, with a sorrowful tone, he gently revealed the reason for his appearance here. Gong Sun Yiming turned his head and glanced at his sister. Then, with a very sincere attitude, he pleaded, Senior brothers, I would like to ask to see junior sister Lin Mengyao from your sect. Is that possible? The grudges between Yu Haoran and the Enforcer Peak were known to all the affiliated forces of the 100 Gate, let alone the 100 Gate. Therefore, Gong Sun Yiming did not dare to say that he was here to see Yu Haoran, in order to avoid the dissatisfaction of the Enforcer Peak intersect disciples in front of him. So you are here to see junior sister Lin. The 5 Enforcer Peak disciples had clearly seen Gong Sun Yiming's action of turning his head just now. They had mistakenly thought that Gong Sun Yuding was here to see Lin Mengyao. After seeing Gong Sun Yuding, who was not inferior to Lin Mengyao in terms of appearance, and even slightly better than her in some aspects, the 5 Enforcer Peak disciples from the Enforcer Peak had a look of admiration in their eyes. However, the Enforcer Peak's laws were very strict, especially for the disciples who were patrolling. The requirements were even stricter. Therefore, although they admired Gong Sun Yuding's beauty, there was not a trace of obscenity in their eyes. This made Gong Sun Yiming feel a lot more at ease. Junior brother Gong Sun, because junior sister Lin's Dawnfall Peak is full of female disciples, it is not convenient for us to take you directly to see her. Therefore, you can only wait at the sex training peak. The disciple with the strongest cultivation responded, That is what we should do. Hearing that the other party did not make things difficult for him, Gong Sun Yiming quickly nodded his head and thanked them. Thank you, senior brothers. All right, follow junior brother Wu to the training peak. He pointed at a thin and small disciple with a cultivation of grade 7 martial master. He was the disciple with the strongest cultivation. Sorry to trouble you, senior brother Wu. After exchanging pleasantries, Gongsun Yiming brought Gongsun Yuding and followed the disciple with the surname Wu and went straight to the training peak. Senior brother Zhao, why do I feel that Gongsun Yiming's condition is a bit strange? After Gongsun Yiming and his sister left, an ordinary-looking disciple said to the strongest disciple with the surname Zhao. Chapter 339. 100 Qi Gate, outside the dense forest. Of course it's inappropriate. Disciple Zhao chuckled as a proud smile flashed across his face. Junior Qi, according to our law enforcement peaks, disciples who participated in the Blue Moon Secret Realm trial, Gongsun Yiming and Yu Haoran have fought side by side several times in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. They have a very good relationship with each other. If my guess is correct, I'm afraid that Gongsun Yiming is currently being chased by the experts of the Ancient Town sect. The reason is because Yu Haoran directly killed 3 martial king experts of the Ancient Town sect at the end of the Blue Moon Secret Realm trial, completely angering the upper echelons of the Ancient Town sect. Senior Zhao, if that's the case, then wouldn't we offend the Ancient Town faction by secretly letting Gongsun Yiming into the sect? After hearing Senior Zhao's speculation, the disciple surnamed Qi said in a panic, "Not only would we offend the Ancient Town sect, but we would also offend the sect leader's faction." Disciple Zhao nodded, but there was not a trace of panic on his face. Instead, he spoke in a very domineering manner. "However, so what if we offend them? Would they dare to punish our law enforcement peak?" Actually, Disciple Zhao had another reason for letting Gongsun Yiming into the 100 Qi Gate. It was to specifically target the sect leader's faction. This was because after Yu Haoran killed his way into the law enforcement peak alone and emptied the entire law enforcement peak's treasury, not only did it cause the law enforcement peak to suffer heavy losses, but it also weakened the prestige that had been accumulated for hundreds of years. In the past, no matter which faction the law enforcement peak's disciples went to, from the hall masters and deacons to the ordinary disciples, all of them were trembling with fear and treated as if they were treading on thin ice. But now, not to mention the hall masters and law enforcers, even the ordinary disciples did not put them in their eyes. They even ignored the laws that the law enforcement peak had upheld for hundreds of years. The ones who went the most overboard were the disciples of the sect leader's faction. Although the culprit behind this situation was Yu Haoran, they did not dare to direct their resentment at Yu Haoran. They could only think of ways to weaken the strength and prestige of the other factions. Therefore, he planned to use Gongsun Yiming's special identity to provoke the sect master's faction to besiege him, and then use this to infuriate Yu Haoran. And with Yu Haoran's extremely protective personality, if someone dared to hurt his brothers, it would definitely trigger his killing intent. He would definitely use the strength of the secret transformation technique to cause a huge ruckus. If Yu Haoran could directly kill Bai Qi Peak and treat them the same way he treated the law enforcement peak, this would weaken the influence of the sovereign's faction, and the law enforcement peak could also use this opportunity to restore the prestige of the law enforcement peak. This could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Junior brother Qi, I'll give you a mission now. He lowered his head and whispered into the disciple's ear. After hearing senior brother Zhao's plan, disciple Qi's eyes lit up and he nodded vigorously. Then, he turned around and headed straight for the sect. "You two, come here." With a wave of his hand, the other 2 law enforcement peak disciples came to disciple Zhao's side and listened to his whispered instructions. "Yes, senior brother Zhao." Hearing senior brother Zhao's arrangement, the 2 disciples nodded excitedly and went straight in the direction of the Ancient Town sect. Whether or not we can restore the prestige of the law enforcement peak depends on this battle. Disciple Zhao exclaimed as he raised his head and looked in the direction of the 100 Qi Gate. Then he used his body movement technique and rushed to the 100 Qi Gate like a gust of wind. The sun rises from the east mountain, and all living things awaken. Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged in the courtyard of the Hidden Moon Pavilion, slowly opened his eyes. Then he moved his hands and feet, and suddenly a series of cracking sounds came from his body. Seeing that Yu Haoran had stood up from the ground and was moving his hands and feet, Thowling hurriedly asked, "Yu Haoran, how do you feel?" "I feel very powerful," Yu Haoran replied excitedly, as he carefully sensed the strength in his clenched fists and the internal organs in his body. "Since that's the case, I think you should go to the depths of the forest and find a few 8th rank or 7th rank exotic beasts. Not only can you test your strength and see what realm you have reached, but you can also gradually adapt to your strength after breaking through." Regardless of whether it was a breakthrough in cultivation or a promotion in the grade of the physical body, it was only a breakthrough and increase in strength. If he wanted to convert the sudden increase in strength into strength, he still needed to go through the trials of blood and fire. "Okay, I'll go take a look at Junior Brother Wu. If he also happens to have a breakthrough in cultivation and physical body grade, then I'll bring him along." Nodding his head, Yu Haoran walked out of the Hidden Moon Pavilion, planning to go to the Hidden Dragon Pavilion to find Wu Xingjun. This was because when the trial of the Blue Moon Secret Realm ended, Wu Xingjun's cultivation and physical body grade had both reached the peak of 9th rank martial warrior. Furthermore, according to his accumulation before the breakthrough, it was almost over. That works too. Hearing the Yu Haoran plan to call Wu Xingjun along, Thowling also felt that it was very suitable. After all, Wu Xingjun, who possessed the bloodthirsty physique, would definitely be Yu Haoran's right-hand man in the future. The stronger he was, the more help he would be to Yu Haoran. However, just as Yu Haoran was about to leave the Hidden Moon Pavilion and head straight for the Hidden Dragon Pavilion, a red sword-shaped firework suddenly shot up from the direction of the trial peak. "Not good. Looks like Junior Brother Gongsun is in trouble." After seeing the red sword-shaped firework, Yu Haoran's expression changed. He immediately changed his direction and used his footwork martial skill to head straight for the trial peak. When the trial of the Blue Moon Secret Realm was about to end, and he persuaded Du Yuan to temporarily give up on leaving the Secret Realm, Yu Haoran used his free time to use a special material from the Red Rocks to refine 7 warning fireworks. His goal was to give them to the people closest to him, so that when they were in danger, they would be able to send out a distress signal in time, making it easier for him to save them. At that time, he had refined a total of 7 special fireworks that didn't require any origin energy and only needed to be crushed to ignite them. The 7 fireworks were given to Wu Xingjun, Lin Mingyao, Kong Yong'e, Palace, Du Yuan, and the Red Redwood Boar. He also secretly stuffed one into Gongsun Yiming's hand when they parted at the entrance of the Secret Realm. Palace and Du Yuan were both in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. When the Redwood Boar left the Blue Moon Secret Realm, it chose a direction that was at least tens of thousands of kilometers away from him. Even if they ignited the firework as a warning, he probably wouldn't be able to see it. Wu Xingjun was in the Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Lin Mingyao was in the Sunset Peak, and Kong Yong'e was in the Achievement Hall. The location where they ignited the firework would not appear in the direction of the trial peak. Therefore, it could only be that Gongsun Yiming, who was planning to seek refuge with him, would choose to ignite the warning firework when he encountered a crisis that he couldn't deal with in order to seek help from him. 100 Chi Gate, below the trial peak. Gongsun Yiming, you better obediently surrender. Only then can I ask the ancient town sect leader Zhao to let you and your sister live. Zhao Zhong, who came from a sect and had a cultivation of 9th grade martial master, threatened with a gloomy expression. Zhao Zhong, like Zhao Zong, was a relative of the sect leader Zhao Ji. However, the difference between Zhao Zhong and Zhao Zong was that Zhao Zhong's talent and potential were extremely outstanding. He had the aptitude of an advanced martial king and was already an early 9th grade martial master at the age of 19. He was deeply valued by Zhao Ji. More importantly, the ancient town sect leader Zhao Ji was his second uncle. The ancient town sect leader Zhao Ji had no children. In the future, the ancient town sect leader position would very likely be Zhao Zhong. Chapter 340. 100 Qi Gate at the bottom of the training peak. Senior Brother Zhao, it's not impossible for us to surrender, but we have to wait for Yu Shixiang to come. Because this time, we came to the 100 Qi Gate with the purpose of meeting Yu Shixiang. Facing Zhao Zhong's threat, Gongsun Yiming felt very nervous. Because of his position in the ancient town sect, he had heard of Zhao Zhong's deeds more than once and knew that he was a ruthless person. Now that he had been blocked by him, it was impossible to escape. Therefore, Gongsun Yiming could only hope that Yu Haoran would appear in time. Fortunately, he had just sent out a signal for help. Yu Haoran, who does he think he is? Hearing Gongsun Yiming mention Yu Haoran, Zhao Zhong immediately ridiculed with disdain. If he dares to interfere in today's matter, I will make him regret entering the 100 Qi Gate and become a disciple of the 100 Qi Gate. Surname Zhao, whether I, Yu Haoran, am a person or not is not something that a mere martial master like you can decide. However, I know that you, Zhao Zhong, are a person who is not a person. Just as Zhao Zhong's disdainful ridicule ended, an obviously humiliating and sarcastic voice sounded at the same time. Accompanied by the sarcastic voice, a figure rushed in front of Gongsun Yiming like lightning. Zhao Zhong, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Not to mention a mere disciple like you. Even if Zhao Ji stood in front of me, he wouldn't dare to say those words. Yu Haoran coldly looked at Zhao Zhong and retorted with incomparable strength. Yu Haoran. Seeing Yu Haoran suddenly standing in front of Gongsun Yiming, Zhao Zhong gritted his teeth and said. Then, he took a deep breath, adjusted his anger, and said with a disdainful expression, Yu Haoran, I wasn't looking down on you just now. Yu Haoran, if you didn't have the deterrence of the transformation secret technique, you would have been able to make the experts of the various sects fear you. Without the assistance of the secret realm of transformation, I'm afraid that you, Yu Haoran, would just be an outer disciple of the 100 Qi Gate that no one would recognize. Even if you died, no one would know. Zhao Zhong, it's such an obvious provocation, but you said it with such confidence. This makes me wonder if there's something wrong with your intelligence, or if your parents were very casual when they raised you. Zhao Zhong's scheme was too obvious, and everyone present could see it. However, no one expected that Yu Haoran would use Zhao Zhong's obvious scheme to insult him. Yu Haoran, you're courting death. There was something wrong with his intelligence, and his parents were too casual when they raised him. Yu Haoran's humiliation completely infuriated Zhao Zhong. He wanted nothing more than to tear Yu Haoran in half immediately. However, when he thought that Yu Haoran could transform into a giant monkey and had the strength of a martial emperor, he could only grit his teeth and curse. He didn't dare to take a step forward. Seeing that Zhao Zhong only knew how to curse but didn't dare to step forward, Yu Haoran sneered disdainfully. Then, he turned around and looked at Gongsun Yiming. Junior Brother Gongsun, I've made you suffer, Yu Haoran said apologetically. Not only was Gongsun Yiming in a very sorry state, but his long robe, which he didn't have the chance to change, was also stained with blood. Yu Haoran knew that he must have suffered a lot, and suffered a lot on the way from the ancient town sect to the 100 Qi Gate. A large part of the reason for the pain and suffering he had suffered was likely because he had killed the 3 martial king experts of the ancient town faction. To be able to successfully bring my sister to see Yu Shixiang, it's worth it no matter how much pain and tiredness I suffered. Gongsun Yiming responded to Yu Haoran's concern with a relaxed expression. Then, he reached out and pulled Gongsun Yuding, who was behind him, in front of him and introduced her to Yu Haoran. Yu Shixiang, this is my sister, Gongsun Yuding. Today is her 16th birthday. Gongsun Yuding greets Yu Shixiang. On the way, Gongsun Yiming not only explained why he wanted to leave the ancient town sect, but also praised Yu Haoran's excellence and brilliance. Therefore, Gongsun Yuding had long wanted to see what kind of person the person was that her elder brother admired so much. When she saw Yu Haoran for the first time, Gongsun Yuding was slightly disappointed, because in terms of appearance, Yu Haoran was the kind of person who had an extremely ordinary appearance. If he was thrown into a crowd, he would definitely not attract attention. But in the second glance, Gongsun Yuding discovered that Yu Haoran was extraordinary. He exuded a kind of confidence that everything was under his control. And this kind of confidence in absolute control was very attractive to girls. And the third glance was what really moved Gongsun Yuding. That was Yu Haoran's eyes, which constantly revealed a trace of sadness. And this kind of sad eyes, to a young girl like her who had not experienced much of the world, had a fatal attraction. Junior sister Gongsun, hello. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran responded with a smile. Although being stared at by Gongsun Yuding made his heart feel a little uncomfortable, but considering that Gongsun Yuding was just a little girl who had just reached adulthood and did as she pleased, Yu Haoran suddenly felt a lot more relieved. Junior brother Gongsun, although you have been to the 100 Chi Gate before, you definitely have not been to Qingyun Peak. Now, I will take you to Qingyun Peak to have a look. After greeting Gongsun Yuding, Yu Haoran invited Gongsun Yiming and his sister to Qingyun Peak to familiarize themselves with the place where they would live in the future. Sorry to disturb Yu Shixiao. After being polite, Gongsun Yiming followed behind Yu Haoran and planned to leave the trial peak. Yu Haoran, aren't you looking down on me too much? Seeing that Yu Haoran planned to take the Gongsun siblings away after greeting them, Zhao Zhong's face was gloomy as he questioned. Turning his head to look at Zhao Zhong, Yu Haoran said in an incomparably domineering manner, "Surnamed Zhao, I still say the same thing. Don't think too highly of yourself. In 100 Chi Gate, as long as you don't violate the 3 sect rules, I, Yu Haoran, can do whatever I want. Don't talk about you. Even if Zhao Ji was standing in front of me, I would do whatever I want. I would do whatever I want." Yu Haoran's incomparably domineering words suddenly brought a completely different feeling to everyone present. For Zhao Zhong, Yu Haoran's words just now completely deviated from the orthodoxy and disgraced the sect. According to the sect rules of the sect, at the very least, one's cultivation would be abolished and he would be tortured to death by 1,000 cuts before he could be sent on his way. For Gongsun Yiming, Yu Haoran's incomparably domineering words just now made his blood boil. This kind of attitude, this kind of behavior, this kind of domineering attitude, this was the backbone that disciples with top talent and potential should have. At the same time, he also felt extremely fortunate that he had left the ancient town sect, joined the 100 Chi Gate, and became a disciple of Qingyun Peak. He was fortunate that Yu Haoran had taken a fancy to him and was willing to accept him. And for Gongsun Yuding, who had just reached adulthood and was still in a hazy state towards the opposite sex, her eyes flashed as she looked at Yu Haoran, and some messy thoughts appeared in her mind. Yu Haoran, don't tell me you think that no one in the 100 Chi Gate can deal with you just by relying on the secret method of transformation. Just as Zhao Zhong was unable to refute or stop Yu Haoran's incomparably domineering demonstration, a questioning voice suddenly came from the depths of the 100 Chi Gate. Chapter 341. 100 Chi Gate at the foot of the training peak. Zhao Xinyu, I haven't got to find trouble with you yet. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Looking at Zhao Xinyu, who was standing in front of Zhao Zhong, the corners of Yu Haoran's mouth curled up slightly as he threatened. Is that so? Zhao Xinyu was not afraid of Yu Haoran's threat. He only sneered disdainfully. Then, he turned to Zhao Zhong and asked, Brother Zhong, if I have a way to prevent Yu Haoran from using the secret transformation technique, do you have the confidence to capture him? Xinyu, are you looking down on your brother Zhong by saying that? Without the secret transformation technique, Yu Haoran's cultivation was at most at the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior realm. In Zhao Zhong's eyes, an opponent with such strength was like an ant. If he wanted to step on, pinch, stomp, slap, die, or live, it was all up to him. Therefore, in the face of Zhao Xinyu's questioning, he was very dissatisfied. Brother Zhong, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but the magic tool that restricts Yu Haoran's secret transformation technique can only be used once. If you have 100% confidence in capturing him, then I'm willing to give up this precious magic tool and lend you a hand. If you don't have 100% confidence, then we'll admit defeat today and let Yu Haoran take away Gong Sun Yiming and his sister. In the future, we'll find a suitable opportunity." In the face of Zhao Zhong's dissatisfaction, Zhao Xinyu hurriedly explained and asked in a cautious tone. However, if one looked closely at Zhao Xinyu's eyes, they would see a trace of coldness flashing through his eyes from time to time. "Zhao Xinyu, I, Zhao Zhong, swear by the laws of heaven, if you, Zhao Xinyu, can restrict Yu Haoran from using the secret transformation technique, then I, Zhao Zhong, can capture Yu Haoran alive. Otherwise, my blood will splatter on the spot and my soul will scatter." In the face of Zhao Xinyu's distrust, Zhao Zhong was completely enraged. He raised his left hand and swore by the laws of heaven, the highest form of oath in the Tianxian continent. "Brother Zhong, I just want to confirm if the plan is feasible. Why do you have to swear such a serious oath?" Reaching out to press down Zhao Zhong's raised left hand, Zhao Xinyu pretended to be very angry as he complained. However, his heart at this moment, he was overjoyed. Although he and Zhao Zhong were both direct descendants of the Zhao clan, and Zhao Zhong's special relationship with the ancient town sect master would not threaten his chances of ascending to the top in the future, in Zhao Xinyu's heart, eliminating Yu Haoran was the most important thing in his life at this moment. As long as he could eliminate Yu Haoran, not to mention sacrificing a single Zhao Zhong, even if he had to sacrifice the entire Zhao clan, Zhao Xinyu, would not even frown. "Xinyu, now that I have finished swearing, I wonder when you will use the artifact that restricts Yu Haoran's transformation?" Ignoring Zhao Xinyu's complaints, Zhao Zhong asked coldly. Although Zhao Zhong couldn't completely guess Zhao Xinyu's thoughts, he could also feel that the repeated questioning just now was a more subtle way of goading him. Even though he clearly knew that it was a provocation, Zhao Zhong still dared to swear on the heavenly ways rules that he absolutely could not violate. This was because he had absolute confidence in his own strength. Furthermore, he also wanted to use today's magnificent feat of capturing Yu Haoran to expand his influence in the sect. In the future, he would have the ability and opportunity to compete for the position of the 100 Qi Gates sect master, which was even stronger, more powerful, and more influential. "Big Brother Zhong, once I have made the appropriate arrangements, I will immediately use that artifact," Zhao Xinyu said as he patted Zhao Zhong's shoulder. Then, he turned around and looked at Yu Haoran as he nodded to the 20 or so martial master experts that he had brought with him. Yu Haoran did not stop this. He only calmly looked at Zhao Xinyu to see what he wanted to do. "Yu Haoran, I will give you 2 choices now," Zhao Xinyu said proudly after the 20 or so martial master experts that he had brought with him blocked all the exits. "Speak," Yu Haoran said with a relaxed expression, as if he was watching a show. "The first choice is to obediently kneel in front of me and kowtow to me 3 times. If you do, I will consider sparing your life." After giving the first choice, Zhao Xinyu stared closely at Yu Haoran. He wanted to know how Yu Haoran would react after hearing his choice. Unfortunately, Yu Haoran's expression did not change in the slightest, let alone become angry. This made Zhao Xinyu very disappointed. Then, he said the second choice with some annoyance. "The second choice is for Big Brother Zhong to personally take action. I'm afraid that the process and outcome will not be very comfortable. Are you done talking?" After Zhao Xinyu gave the second choice, Yu Haoran waited for a little more than 10 seconds. When he realized that Zhao Xinyu had no intention of continuing, he deliberately reminded him. "Yu Haoran, give me your choice." Yu Haoran's calm expression made Zhao Xinyu very unhappy. He immediately took out a red ball from his sleeve and asked coldly, "Zhao Xinyu, why don't I give you 2 choices right now?" Glancing at the red ball that Zhao Xinyu had just taken out, a trace of familiarity welled up in his heart. He seemed to have seen this red ball somewhere in his previous life. However, he couldn't recall it in a short period of time. He could only stall for time while carefully recalling it. "Yu Haoran, it seems like you have made your choice." Seeing Yu Haoran staring at the red ball in his hand, Zhao Xinyu knew that he was already suspicious. In order to prevent Howren from using the secret transformation technique in advance and affecting his meticulous plan, Zhao Xinyu decided to directly use the red ball that could restrict the secret transformation technique. Zhao Xinyu cut his finger and forced out a few drops of blood onto the red ball. Then, the red ball in his hand directly flew into the air. When a few drops of blood completely merged with the red ball self-exploded. Countless red powder finally formed a red halo with a diameter of 100 meters and enveloped everyone present. Gold-devouring beetles. Gold-devouring beetles. After the red halo, formed by the self-explosion of the red ball, enveloped everyone, Howren and Thaling, who was in his sea of consciousness, cried out involuntarily at the same time. How is this possible? How can Zhao Xinyu have the gold-devouring beetles, a spiritual insect that has been lost for hundreds of thousands of years? After scanning the red halo formed by the red ball with his divine sense, Thaling finally determined that his judgment was correct. He was even more shocked and involuntarily muttered to himself, "Lost for hundreds of thousands of years." Originally, he was still shocked that Zhao Xinyu actually had the gold-devouring beetles. However, after hearing Thaling's involuntary muttering, Howren immediately asked in confusion. Nodding his head, Thaling replied, "That's right. The gold-devouring beetles are between exotic beasts and spiritual beasts. They are a special kind of life form that lives by devouring the blood of living creatures. The gold-devouring beetles can ignore any defenses of living creatures. Even the defenses formed by the power of laws cannot stop them from directly entering a living creature's body and instantly devouring all the blood in the living creature's body. Because the blood of living creatures contains 1/3 of their cultivation, the gold-devouring beetles that devour all the blood can possess 1/3 of their target's cultivation for a short period of time." At this point, Thaling revealed a trace of lingering fear as he spoke. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, a large number of gold-devouring beetles suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Because the gold-devouring beetles live on fresh blood, they will automatically die if they don't consume fresh blood. This caused them to crazily pursue the blood of living creatures. Chapter 342. 100 Qi Gate, Trial Peak. Howren, you must know that hundreds of thousands of years ago, the living environment of the profound sky continent was much better than it is now. The population was at least a dozen times greater than it is now. Speaking of this, Ta Ling suddenly shouted with great agitation. A quarter of the population, that's tens of billions. If we include the wild beasts and exotic beasts that had their blood sucked dry, the number would definitely exceed 100 billion. Hearing Thaling say that the gold-devouring beetles had sucked dry the blood of hundreds of billions of living beings in just half a year, almost turning the profound sky continent into a living hell, Howren could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was because he did not know that the gold-devouring beetles, which seemed to have many uses and were not dangerous at all, actually possessed such terrifying methods and had once caused such a painful price. Ignoring Howren's shock, Thaling continued. Faced with the threat of extinction, the strongest human and exotic beasts of the profound sky continent joined forces to fight against the gold-devouring beetles. After nearly 100 years, the gold-devouring beetles were finally defeated. In order to prevent the gold-devouring beetles from rising from the ashes, all the experts of the profound sky continent at that time jointly announced an extermination plan that was to absolutely not allow a single gold-devouring beetle to exist in the profound sky continent. Even their corpses had to be destroyed. Therefore, after 1,000 years of carpet searching, all the gold-devouring beetles were finally exterminated, and the profound sky continent was finally restored to its former glory. His brows furrowed slightly, but quickly relaxed. This was because Thaling had just said that hundreds of thousands of years ago, the gold-devouring beetles had been completely exterminated. Not a single gold-devouring beetle could be found in the entire profound sky continent, not even their corpses. However, Yu Haoran knew very well that not only had the gold-devouring beetles not been completely exterminated, but they had also been cultivated on a large scale, reaching a certain scale. This was because in his previous life, he had once seen living gold-devouring beetles in a certain fallen family clan. There were even tens of thousands of them. Moreover, he received a gift from the clan before he left. He received 3 one-time used magic tools refined from the corpses of the gold-devouring beetles and 10 living gold-devouring beetles. Actually, when the red ball in Zhao Sinyu's hand exploded after fusing with Zhao Sinyu's blood, Yu Haoran already knew the origin of the red ball in his hand. He also knew why Zhao Sinyu had ordered his subordinates to block off all possible escape routes. Because the gold-devouring beetles could devour the blood of living creatures, they could use corpses to refine single-use magic tools that restricted bloodlines. Within the red circle of light formed by the gold-devouring beetles, as long as it was a constitution related to blood, martial skills, and mental cultivation methods, nothing could be used. This included special constitutions and transformation secret techniques. That was because the transfiguration secret technique used the blood essence of mutated beasts. Through the special activation and operation of the transfiguration secret technique, the transfiguration secret technique would give a transfiguration secret technique the strength of the mutated beast. The most basic principle was to make full use of the blood essence of exotic beasts, which happened to be within the limits of the gold-devouring beetle's abilities. Yu Haoran, although the gold-devouring beetles Zhao Sinyu used were only magic tools refined from the corpses of dead gold-devouring beetles, due to their special constitutions, their corpses can only be preserved for a short period of time. Even magic tools made from their corpses can't be preserved for more than 10 years. In other words, Zhao Sinyu, or the person who gave him the magic tool for the gold-devouring beetles, definitely knew of their existence. Therefore, you must capture Zhao Sinyu alive and interrogate him about the mastermind behind the gold-devouring beetles. Then, think of a way to unite the experts of the profound sky continent and exterminate the gold-devouring beetles together, Thaling suggested with great worry. I'll try my best. In response, Yu Haoran's reply was very casual. This was because after hundreds of thousands of years of research, not only was that fallen family able to raise gold-devouring beetles, they were also able to control their bloodthirsty and berserk side. It was completely possible for them to not cause any harm to the beings of the profound sky continent. Furthermore, other than being able to refine magic tools that restricted bloodlines, the gold-devouring beetles could also be used to refine top-notch pills that could help martial saints increase the power of their bloodlines. How could they be destroyed so easily? Therefore, not only was Yu Haoran's reply very casual, he also didn't plan on telling Thaling about the existence of the gold-devouring beetles for the time being. Although Thaling was very dissatisfied with Yu Haoran's casual attitude, he knew that Yu Haoran, who hadn't experienced the terror of the gold-devouring beetles, didn't understand the dangers of the gold-devouring beetles. Therefore, Thaling secretly transferred a trace of his divine sense to Zhao Sinyu's body, hoping to find the mastermind behind the gold-devouring beetles through Zhao Sinyu. Yu Haoran, now that you can't use the secret transformation technique, how are you going to deal with Brother Zhong, who is a 9th grade martial master? After the red sphere formed a red circle of light that completely enveloped Yu Haoran and the others, Zhao Sinyu waited for a while, hoping to see Yu Haoran's panicked expression. Unfortunately, other than the initial shock, Yu Haoran's expression didn't change at all. This made Zhao Sinyu deeply disappointed, and he could only let Zhao Zhong take action. Yu Haoran, I've already said it. Zhao Zhong walked past Zhao Sinyu and approached Yu Haoran step by step. He shook his head and stretched his arms and legs as he spoke with a sinister smile. If you don't have the intimidation of the secret transformation technique, how could you, Yu Haoran, be able to make the experts of the various sects fear you? If you don't have the assistance of the secret transformation technique, you, Yu Haoran, are just an ordinary disciple that no one knows about. Even if you die, no one will know about it. Now, it's time to verify whether what I said was true or not. Facing the slowly approaching Zhao Zhong, who spoke with an unusually arrogant tone, Yu Haoran's expression didn't change in the slightest. He turned his head and gestured to Gong's son Yiming and his sister, who had serious expressions. "You guys stay back for now. Yu Shi Xiang, if you can't do it, it's best to inform the senior brothers of Qingyun Peak." Without the assistance of the secret transformation technique, although Yu Haoran wasn't as weak as Zhao Zhong had said, he was definitely not a match for Zhao Zhong, who was a 9th grade martial master. Therefore, Gong's son Yiming hurriedly reminded him, "A mere Zhao Zhong isn't worth the trouble of senior brothers." Shaking his head with a smile, Yu Haoran turned his head and stepped forward to meet Zhao Zhong. At the same time, he activated the Yuan Li in his dantian and the strength of his physical body. No wonder you didn't panic at all after losing the assistance of the secret transformation technique. It turns out that your cultivation has already broken through to the martial master realm. Seeing Yu Haoran activate his Yuan Li and expose his cultivation as a martial master, Zhao Zhong was stunned for a moment. However, his expression was still filled with disdain as he mocked. "So what if your cultivation has broken through to the martial master realm? With your talent and potential, you're at most a 1st grade martial master. With this level of cultivation and strength, I can still crush you to death with one hand." Facing Yu Haoran exposing his cultivation as a martial master, although Zhao Zhong didn't feel much, to Zhao Xinyu, the shock in his heart was like a stormy sea. More than 2 months ago, he and Yu Haoran had participated in the talent and potential test of the 100 Qi Gates disciples at the same time. At that time, Zhao Xinyu's cultivation was at the peak of a 9th grade martial disciple. He had the talent and potential of a peak martial king. Yu Haoran was also at the peak of the 9th grade martial disciple. His talent and potential were slightly better than his, close to the early stage of the martial saint realm. Chapter 343, 100 Qi Gate, Training Peak. Originally, Zhao Xinyu should have had the advantage in terms of talent and potential, as well as the advantage in cultivation resources. But in reality, yesterday, when he broke through to the 4th grade martial warrior realm, he was praised by his father and the clan elders as an exceptional genius rarely seen in 100 years. On the other hand, Yu Haoran was different. They had the same starting point and the same aptitude. However, the other party had already broken through to the martial master realm. There was an entire realm and 6 small realms between them. This caused Zhao Xinyu to recall his father's evaluation of him as an exceptional genius rarely seen in 100 years. He immediately blushed and felt a sense of humiliation in his heart. "Zhao Zhong, if the cultivation of a 1st grade martial master is not enough, then what about the cultivation of a 2nd grade martial master?" Faced with Zhao Zhong's disdainful mockery, Yu Haoran did not get angry at all. He smiled as he took his 2nd step. As he took his 1st step, Yu Haoran's cultivation aura directly rose to that of a 2nd grade martial master. In my eyes, a 2nd grade martial master is the same as a 1st grade martial master. I can still kill you with one slap. Although Zhao Zhong was extremely shocked that Haoran was able to break through to grade 2 martial master in one fell swoop after completing his training in the Blue Moon secret realm, it was not as if Zhao Zhong had never seen such a genius before. Furthermore, he had relied on his deep accumulation to almost break through to the 2nd grade martial master. Therefore, his attitude was still very arrogant as he spoke. "Zhao Zhong, if the cultivation of a 2nd grade martial master is not enough, then what about the cultivation of a 3rd grade martial master?" Yu Haoran chuckled when he saw that Zhao Zhong's heart was still not shaken even after he revealed his cultivation as a 2nd grade martial master. Then he took his 3rd step. At the same time, his body emitted the aura of a 3rd grade martial master. How is this possible? Seeing that Yu Haoran's cultivation aura had reached the 3rd grade martial master, Zhao Zhong was no longer surprised but shocked. Through the accumulation of the martial warrior realm and breaking through to the martial master realm, one's cultivation had reached the 3rd grade of martial master. This kind of talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance could only be achieved by a truly exceptional genius. There were only 3 truly peerless geniuses in the entire 100 Gate. Although the 3 of them were about the same age as them, they had already occupied high positions in the 100 Gate and enjoyed treatment that far exceeded the elite disciples like them. In fact, Zhao Zhong was not the only one who was shocked. Gong's son Yiming, who was behind Yu Haoran, also looked at him in shock. Through the accumulation of the martial warrior realm, when breaking through to the martial master realm, it was very normal to raise one's cultivation to grade 1 or grade 2 martial master. Gong's son Yiming also believed that by relying on his own talent and potential, as well as the deep accumulation of experience in the Blue Moon secret realm, he would be able to break through to the martial master realm and raise his cultivation to grade 2 martial master in one go. With the help of the top-notch spiritual medicine and spiritual fruit he had harvested in the Blue Moon secret realm, he had directly raised his cultivation to the peak of 2nd grade martial master. However, a 3rd grade martial master, Gong's son Yiming knew that it was impossible for him to do so. This was because to do so, one needed even more outstanding talent and potential, even deeper accumulation of experience in the realm, as well as a state of mind that was comparable to one's cultivation. Gong's son Yiming did not possess any of these 3 requirements at the moment. As for Gong's son Yuding, although she had yet to come into contact with cultivation, she did not understand the meaning of Yu Haoran directly revealing his 3rd grade martial master cultivation. However, from the shocked expressions of everyone present, she knew that Yu Haoran had just done something that shocked everyone. Therefore, her originally worried expression instantly turned into one of joy. However, to Zhao Xinyu, when faced with Yu Haoran directly revealing his 3rd grade martial master cultivation, his expression was so gloomy that it could almost drip water. Not enough. Although Zhao Zhong's heart was in a perilous situation due to Yu Haoran directly breaking through to the 3rd grade martial master realm, his cultivation was far superior to Yu Haoran's by 6 small realms. Thus, he continued to speak with disdain. A mere 3rd grade martial master is still not a match for a single palm from me, Zhao Zhong. Zhao Zhong, if a 3rd grade martial master cultivation is not enough, then what about a 4th grade martial master cultivation? Faced with the stubborn Zhao Zhong, Yu Haoran asked with a smile on his face as he took his 4th step. Impossible. How can this be? Damn it. Faced with Yu Haoran's exposed 4th grade martial master cultivation, Zhao Zhong, Gong's son Yiming, and Zhao Xinyu all involuntarily cried out at the same time. To be able to raise one's cultivation by 4 small realms while breaking through to the martial master realm, this was already an ability that could not be achieved by a peerless genius. Unless Yu Haoran's aptitude had already reached the demonic level and he had an extremely strong mental state, it was absolutely impossible for him to break through 4 small realms. In a small forest not far from the trial peak, there were dozens of people dressed in the Enforcer Peak's uniform. Their auras were restrained, and it was obvious that they were elite disciples who had experienced hundreds of battles. Among them was the disciple, surnamed Zhao, who had used a scheme to incite a conflict between Yu Haoran and the Sectmaster's faction, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. In the middle of these disciples, there was a peak 7th grade martial ancestor realm expert who could use the power of his divine sense. He used his divine sense to monitor the conflict that was occurring below the trial peak, while explaining the entire process in detail. When Yu Haoran revealed his 1st grade martial master cultivation, none of the dozens of Enforcer Peak disciples present were shocked. After all, when Yu Haoran had killed his way to the Enforcer Peak alone, he had relied on a secret transformation technique to transform into a giant monkey and fight the Peak Master alone. The entire process was witnessed by these Enforcer Peak disciples. To be able to adapt to the energy of the rank 5 Vidra monkey's blood essence, and to be able to use the power of a martial king, it was enough to show that Yu Haoran's control over his strength and the tempering of his mental state had already reached a very high level. With such a high tempering of his mental state, as long as he had sufficient energy to raise his cultivation, and then relied on the experience of blood and fire in the Blue Moon secret realm, as well as his deep accumulation, it was not impossible for him to break through to the martial master realm in a short period of time. When the martial ancestor realm expert mentioned that Yu Haoran had revealed his second-grade martial master cultivation, the people present were not surprised in the slightest. That was because to them, if Yu Haoran was not able to break through one or two small realms when breaking through to the martial master realm, they would be shocked. When the martial ancestor realm expert mentioned that Yu Haoran had revealed his third-grade martial master cultivation, although the people present were shocked, it was still within the range of what they could accept. However, when Yu Haoran revealed his fourth-grade martial master cultivation, the dozens of Enforcer Peak disciples present all had a change in expression. Everyone's gazes were directed towards Disciple Zhao, who was standing at the front of the crowd and was in charge of this mission. Continue observing. Disciple Zhao forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart and pondered for 3 seconds before instructing in a low voice. Breaking through 4 small realms in one go and reaching the 4th-grade martial master realm with 16 small realms in between, this kind of aptitude was completely the performance of a demon-level disciple. Scheming against Yu Haoran, who had a demon-level aptitude, was an extremely risky move for the Enforcer Peak. If Yu Haoran were to see through this, it would probably arouse his strong disgust and intensify the conflict between him and the Enforcer Peak. This was also the main reason why the gazes of the disciples present were directed towards Disciple Zhao. Chapter 344, 100 Qi Gate, Trial Peak. Yu Haoran, I originally only wanted to capture you alive today and hand you over to Cousin Sinew. However, for me and for the future of the Gatemaster's faction, I can only kill you today. After taking 10 deep breaths, Zhao Zhong barely suppressed the shock in his heart and spoke with killing intent in his heart. Then, he turned his head to look at Zhao Sinew and directly ordered, Sinew, capturing alive includes living and corpse. Right now, I can only follow the oath of the heavenly Tao and capture a corpse for you. Brother Zhong, it's better to be safe than sorry. I support your idea with both hands. Zhao Sinew, who had also been frightened by Yu Haoran's exposed 4th-grade martial master cultivation, hurriedly nodded in agreement when he heard Zhao Zhong's order. Capturing alive meant that Yu Haoran could still live for a period of time. Now that Yu Haoran had exposed his monstrous aptitude, he would definitely attract the attention of the various factions in the sect, especially those factions that didn't agree with the Gatemaster's faction, as well as the group of elders that could decide the fate of the 100 Qi Gate. If these people took a fancy to Yu Haoran's monstrous aptitude and saved him, it wouldn't take long for the Gatemaster's faction to be completely suppressed. In the future, the Zhao clan would very likely lose their position as the Gatemaster's faction. Therefore, Zhao Sinew didn't dare to keep Yu Haoran alive and give him a chance to turn the tables. Zhao Zhong, if a 4th-grade martial master can still make you so arrogant and egotistical, then I wonder if a 5th-grade martial master can make you put away your so-called arrogance. Faced with Zhao Zhong's words, Yu Haoran's expression didn't change in the slightest. He still had a smile on his face as he took a step forward with his left foot. As he questioned in a loud voice, his left foot landed heavily on the ground. SSSS. When Yu Haoran revealed his cultivation as a mid-5th-grade martial master, everyone present, as well as those in the distant forest, gasped at the same time. Breaking through to grade 5 martial master was no longer something that could be achieved through talent, potential, comprehension, perseverance, accumulation of experience, or mental state. This was a completely heaven-defying achievement. To Zhao Zhong, he had never heard of anyone who could directly raise their cultivation by 5 small realms when breaking through to the martial master realm. Even the most outstanding demonic geniuses of the 7 top sects could not do this. As for the disciple, surnamed Zhao, and the martial ancestor realm experts in the forest, after Yu Haoran exposed his cultivation as a grade 5 martial master, they felt incomparably panicked. At the same time, they were also considering whether or not to cancel their plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Martial nephew Zhao, what do you think we should do? The martial ancestor realm expert turned his head to look at the disciple, surnamed Zhao, and asked. If Yu Haoran had only revealed his demonic talent, and they continued with their original plan, although it would be somewhat risky, as long as they did it flawlessly and considered the threat of the Gatemaster's faction, Yu Haoran might not be overly calculated with the law enforcement peak. However, at this moment, Yu Haoran revealed his cultivation as a mid-5th grade martial master. This meant that it was very likely that he had a heaven-defying talent that surpassed the demonic talent level. A genius like this could already ignore the threat of any faction in the 100 Chi Gate. Even if his current strength wasn't enough to threaten powerful factions like the Gatemaster and the law enforcement peak, with the speed of his cultivation, it would probably only take a few years for him to completely suppress all the factions in the 100 Chi Gate with his own strength. At this moment, they could either borrow the power of Zhao Zhong's weapon that could restrict his transformation and cooperate with Zhao Zhong to kill Yu Haoran. This would not only be able to avenge the humiliation that the law enforcement peak had suffered previously, but also prevent future troubles. Or they could think of a way to resolve the conflict with Yu Haoran and coexist peacefully. After thinking deeply for a few seconds, the disciple, surnamed Zhao's originally worried expression immediately became firm, and he indicated for everyone to act according to the original plan. However, as he turned his head to look in the direction of Qingyun Peak, the disciple, surnamed Zhao, instructed the martial ancestor realm expert at the same time. If Yu Haoran's life is in danger, I'll have to trouble Martial Uncle Ma to lend a hand. It seems that you've already thought it through. Not only would they act according to the original plan, but they would also have to lend a hand when Yu Haoran was in danger. After hearing the disciple, surnamed Zhao's instructions, the martial ancestor realm expert spoke with great relief. That's right. The disciple, surnamed Zhao, nodded heavily and said, All right, I'll do my best to protect Yu Haoran's safety. The martial ancestor Ma nodded. Then, his spiritual sense quietly penetrated the light shield formed by the red ball and quietly landed on Yu Haoran's body. In Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness, Thowling could not help but frown when he saw the spiritual sense quietly land on Yu Haoran's body. However, he did not expel the spiritual sense and allowed it to stay on Yu Haoran's body. This was because not only did the spiritual sense not have the slightest bit of malice, it even had an aura of protecting Yu Haoran at all times. Otherwise, Thowling would not just expel it, he would probably use this spiritual sense to directly destroy the owner of this spiritual sense. Yu Haoran, it seems that even if I have to sacrifice my life today, I'll have to kill you at the bottom of the training peak. Otherwise, in less than 10 years, even if you don't use the secret transformation technique, I'm afraid that no one in the entire 100 Chi Gate will be able to suppress you. As an elite disciple under the Gate Master, Zhao Zhong knew that the greater one's talent and potential, the greater one's ability to surpass oneself. To be able to raise one's cultivation level in one fell swoop when breaking through to the Martial Master realm. As a Grade 5 Martial Master, this meant that Yu Haoran was very likely to possess strength that was not inferior to his own. Therefore, Zhao Zhong did not use the method of slowly approaching in hopes that Yu Haoran would be unable to withstand the pressure of his aura and directly kneel down to beg for mercy. Instead, he directly launched an attack and used all of his strength from the start. Zhao Zhong, don't tell me you think that I, Yu Haoran, only have the strength of cultivation. Softly muttering to himself, Yu Haoran directly exploded with the dual aura of his physical body and cultivation, causing the aura he emitted to instantly surpass that of a Grade 9 Martial Master, finally stopping at the middle Grade 9 Martial Master. However, Yu Haoran was very clear in his heart that the middle Grade 9 Martial Master was not the limit of his strength. The reason was that he had only consolidated his cultivation after breaking through and had not yet familiarized himself with the power after breaking through. After completely adapting and familiarizing himself with the power after breaking through, his strength might directly reach the peak of Grade 9 Martial Master. Moon's swallowing roar. Zhao Zhong directly used a mystic low-level fist technique when he was 5 or 6 meters away from Yu Haoran. This howling sky fist technique was one of the Zhao clan's clan treasures. He had been painstakingly cultivating it all this time, and it was also his strongest technique to date. Following Zhao Zhong's deep roar, a giant white wolf about 6 meters tall and 9 meters long charged out from his fist. Subsequently, the giant white wolf howled at the sky, then lowered its head and charged towards Yu Haoran. Autumn's lingering intent. Seeing the rapidly approaching giant white wolf, Yu Haoran did not panic in the slightest. He stretched out his left hand and lightly patted the giant white wolf. A giant yellow palm directly appeared on top of the giant white wolf's head. When Yu Haoran was a grade 10 martial warrior, although he was able to use Yuan Li to attack from a distance, he was limited by his cultivation and the quality and quantity of his Yuan Li. Not only was the Yuan Li transformed into an illusory object, but its attack power was also not very strong. Now that his cultivation had broken through the Martial Master realm and reached the middle grade 5 Martial Master realm, the giant palm he transformed from his Yuan Li was not only 90% similar to a real palm, but its attack power had also reached the middle grade 9 Martial Master realm. Chapter 345, 100 Qi Gate, Training Peak. Thus, when a yellow palm formed from Yuan Li was about to grab the white wolf, Yu Haoran did not stop attacking. Relying on his wind steps, which had just broken through to the pinnacle, he turned into a bolt of lightning and closed in on Zhao Zhong. He planned to use long-range attacks and close-range attacks to defeat or even kill Zhao Zhong. Trying his best to control the white wolf to dodge and counterattack, the yellow palm's attack had already taken up most of Zhao Zhong's energy. At this moment, seeing Yu Haoran closing in on him like lightning, Zhao Zhong's expression slightly changed. But immediately after, he took a deep breath and used his Yuan Li to create a spirit item to self-destruct. After perishing together with the yellow palm, Zhao Zhong hurriedly gathered all his energy to deal with Yu Haoran's close-range attack. To be able to make the prompt decision to self-destruct a spirit item and use all his energy to deal with his close-range attack, Yu Haoran was quite impressed with Zhao Zhong's reaction and decisiveness. However, admiration was one thing, but the fixed attack method would not change. Thus, relying on the speed of his wind steps, Yu Haoran used the light wind palm and the 7 injuring fists in succession. Every attack was aimed at Zhao Zhong's vital points. In the beginning, because Yu Haoran was not too familiar with his strength, Zhao Zhong was still able to block a portion of his attacks. However, as Yu Haoran became more familiar with his strength after breaking through, not only did his attacks become faster and more strange, but the strength of his attacks also began to increase by several times. This time, not only did it become harder for Zhao Zhong to block, but even if he successfully blocked the attacks, his arms would become numb due to the strength of Yu Haoran's attacks. At this moment, how could Zhao Zhong not understand why Yu Haoran was able to release the aura of a mid-9th grade martial master? Other than his cultivation of a mid-5th grade martial master, his physical body's grade was also not inferior to his cultivation. Both his cultivation and physical body had broken through at the same time, and both had reached around the 5th grade martial master realm. In Zhao Zhong's eyes, Yu Haoran was no longer something that could be described as monstrous. If it was said that Yu Haoran was the reincarnation of an immortal god, Zhao Zhong would not doubt it. After 30 or so moves, not only was Zhao Zhong at a disadvantage, but his vital points were also heavily hit by Yu Haoran, causing him to suffer a certain amount of injuries. Although he wanted to plead for mercy or turn around to escape, Zhao Zhong knew that he could not do so. Putting aside whether Yu Haoran would be willing to let him go, just the oath he had made using the laws of the heavenly Tao made him unable to flee. Otherwise, there was no need for Yu Haoran to personally make a move. The laws of the heavenly Tao would make a move to destroy him. Left with no other choice, Zhao Zhong could only use his full strength, exchanging life for life, exchanging injury for injury in a suicidal attack, forcing Yu Haoran to withdraw his palm and retreat. Zhao Zhong took the opportunity to leave the battlefield and then took out a bright red medicinal pill. Destruction pill. After seeing the red pill that Zhao Zhong took out, Yu Haoran's expression changed slightly. The destruction pill used the power of the pill to directly ignite the Dantian's origin energy, allowing one to obtain 10 times the strength of one's body. The amount of strength one could obtain depended entirely on the grade of the destruction pill. As someone who was proficient in the art of alchemy, Yu Haoran could tell that the destruction pill in Zhao Zhong's hand had reached the 8th level just by looking at the size and color of the pill in his hand. In other words, it could increase Zhao Zhong's strength by 3 times. A 3-fold increase in strength would allow Zhao Zhong's strength to reach the peak of a martial master. Of course, there were advantages and disadvantages to increasing one's strength by several times. While using the destruction pill to ignite origin energy, it would also cause a martial artist's meridians, blood vessels, internal organs, and Dantian to suffer serious injuries. If it was serious, it could cause a drop in realm by several times, or even tens of times, and it would be difficult to recover. Therefore, unless they were forced to a certain extent, no martial artist would be willing to use the destruction pill. With the 8th level destruction pill that Zhao Zhong had consumed, not only would he need to recuperate in bed for at least half a year after the effects of the pill wore off, he would also not be able to absorb the slightest trace of spiritual energy to increase his cultivation. To Zhao Zhong, who was part of the younger generation, this was not as simple as a serious injury. It was very likely that he would be surpassed by disciples of the same generation, thus losing his current status and identity. Yu Haoran, speak the truth. Although he had taken out the destruction pill, Zhao Zhong did not immediately consume it. Instead, he looked at Yu Haoran with a complicated expression and spoke with a tone full of regret. If I had known from the beginning that you possessed a heaven-defying aptitude and a valiant strength that completely surpassed mine, not only would I not have provoked you, I would have even persuaded the sect leader to resolve the grudges between us. If it was possible, I would have even become friends with you. At this point, Zhao Zhong bitterly smiled and shook his head. Then, he directly consumed the destruction pill and raised his head to look at Yu Haoran. His face revealed a trace of determination as he spoke. Unfortunately, there is no medicine for regret in this world. Since the matter has already happened, there is no use in regretting it. In order to make up for the mistakes that I have made, there is no use in regretting it. At this point, Zhao Zhong's originally bitter smile was replaced by a sinister expression as he angrily roared. Yu Haoran, prepare to die. Facing Zhao Zhong, whose strength was at the peak of the 9th grade martial master, Yu Haoran's expression only became serious for a moment. As long as Zhao Zhong's strength did not exceed the martial master realm, then he had the confidence to defeat his opponent. Returning spring, scorching summer, he consecutively used his Yuan Li to form 2 light wind palms. Then he used half of his energy to control the green and red palms, one from the left and one from the right, to attack Zhao Zhong. At the same time, he continued to use the speed of his movement technique to close in on Zhao Zhong. Then he used close combat techniques to quickly consume the Yuan Li burning in his Dantian. Zhao Zhong took a deep breath when he saw the 2 giant palms coming at him from the left and right. Then he stretched out his arms, intending to use his own strength to forcefully resist the 2 giant palms, one green and one red. Boom! Since Zhao Zhong was confident in his own strength, Yu Haoran naturally would not disappoint him. He controlled the green and red palms with his consciousness, smashing them together in a manner that would destroy both jade and common stone. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, Zhao Zhong, who had stretched out his arms, was not smashed into a meat patty by the 2 palms. Instead, he had successfully blocked the force of the 2 palms. However, even though he successfully blocked the power of the 2 palms from Zhao Zhong's bent arms, as well as the sweat dripping down his forehead like rain, even if he blocked the power of the 2 palms just now, it still made him feel uncomfortable, and at the same time, he also received extremely serious injuries. because he was prepared to destroy both jade and common stone. When the green and red palms were blocked by Zhao Zhong, their strength had been exhausted. In the end, they turned into a gentle breeze and disappeared into the air. However, the moment the green and red palms disappeared, Yu Haoran, who had used his movement technique to close in on Zhao Zhong, took advantage of the moment when he was gasping for breath to send a bone-piercing cold wind palm towards his chest. Just as the bone-piercing cold wind palm was about to land on Zhao Zhong's chest, Zhao Zhong suddenly raised his head with a strange smile on his face. Not good. Seeing the strange smile on Zhao Zhong's face, the experienced Yu Haoran immediately knew what Zhao Zhong wanted to do. Chapter 346. Hunter Chi Gate, Trial Peak. Trying to run? It's too late. Zhao Zhong grinned as he watched Yu Haoran forcefully withdraw his palm technique and retreat. Then, he reached out and grabbed Yu Haoran's shoulder, tried to pull Yu Haoran into his embrace with all his might. Not good. In the forest not far from the trial peak, the expert surnamed Ma, who had been using his divine sense to observe the battle, realized that the Yuan Li in Zhao Zhong's body had started to go berserk. His expression changed as he realized that something was wrong. Then, he didn't have time to explain to the crowd. He directly flew out of the forest and sped up towards Yu Haoran. Zhao Zhong, you want to use your dantian to self-destruct and drag me down with you? Dream on. Zhao Zhong directly grabbed his shoulder. It was impossible for him to break free in an instant. If he couldn't break free in an instant, then he wouldn't be able to avoid the destructive power of his dantian self-destruction. Therefore, Yu Haoran decisively gave up on the idea of retreating. He put his index and middle fingers together and sent a message to Thaling with his consciousness. Thaling, lend me a hand. The powerful divine sense avoided the surveillance of the Enforcer Peak's divine sense and directly attached to Yu Haoran's 2 fingers, increasing the speed and power of his attacks. Even though he had burned all of his Yuan Li and obtained the strength of a peak 9th grade martial master, Zhao Zhong's defense didn't increase. Furthermore, with the support of Thaling's divine sense, the attack speed and power of his 2 fingers had already exceeded that of a martial master. Therefore, just as Zhao Zhong's dantian was about to explode, 2 fingers directly pierced into his dantian. The Yuan power contained in the 2 fingers, as well as the power of the Tower Spirit's divine sense, directly disrupted the Yuan power in his dantian. Zhao Zhong's plan to explode his dantian and use the destructive power of the explosion to kill his opponent instantly fell through. The expert surnamed Ma, who had flown out of the forest to help, was stunned when he saw that Yu Haoran had successfully stopped Zhao Zhong from self-destructing his dantian. Then, he returned to the forest with a face full of admiration and praised disciple Zhao. Martial nephew Zhao, I have to say that your decision just now was very wise. Forming a good relationship with Yu Haoran will not only benefit the Enforcer Peak, but it will also bring you unimaginable benefits. Martial Uncle Ma, what happened just now? Disciple Zhao didn't feel the slightest bit complacent in the face of Master Ma's praise. He only wanted to know what had happened a moment ago that caused Master Ma to soar into the air and directly leave the forest. It's like this. Soon after, the expert with the surname Ma explained in detail what had just happened to the disciple with the surname Zhao, as well as the law enforcement peak disciples in the forest. He let them know how important it was to befriend a genius like Yu Haoran, who possessed both heaven-defying talent and abundant battle experience. Impossible! Zhao Zhong shouted in disbelief when he saw that the explosion of his dantian had not only failed, but also that the burning origin energy was flowing out of the hole in his dantian. His cultivation of a 9th grade martial master was rapidly falling. In fact, after the first exchange, Zhao Zhong knew that he might not be Yu Haoran's opponent when he discovered that the reason why Yu Haoran, who was only a 5th grade martial master, had the strength of a 9th grade martial master was because his physical body and cultivation had broken through at the same time. Not only did the first exchange confirm his conjecture, but the strength that Yu Haoran had erupted with the battle experience, and the ruthlessness of his attacks had far exceeded his imagination. He knew very well that he was definitely not Yu Haoran's opponent. At the same time, Zhao Zhong knew that he was bound to die today due to the restrictions of the Heavenly Tao Oath. Therefore, when he planned to use the destruction elixir to burn all the origin energy in his Dantian, he had already planned to use the method of exploding his Dantian to die together with Yu Haoran. If that was the case, Sect Master Zhao Ji might treat his clan members well on account of him helping them eliminate the greatest hidden danger. However, even if he had made sufficient preparations in advance, even if he did not hesitate to use the burning origin energy to forcefully resist the origin energy transformed palms, he deliberately exposed a fatal flaw to lure Yu Haoran into the trap. However, in the end, Yu Haoran still destroyed the explosion of his Dantian. This caused Zhao Zhong to be in disbelief and his heart to be like dead ashes. After lightly sending Zhao Zhong flying with a palm, Yu Haoran's gaze turned to Zhao Xinyu. "Come here, all you come here quickly." After seeing that Yu Haoran did not conceal the strong, murderous intent in his eyes, Zhao Xinyu, who was almost scared out of his wits, hurriedly ordered the 20 or so experts who had been arranged to block Yu Haoran's escape route to come over and protect his safety. "Zhao Xinyu, with my strength and speed, do you think that these people can protect your safety?" Looking at the 20 or so martial master disciples who quickly gathered in front of Zhao Xinyu, Yu Haoran asked with a cold smile. "Yu Haoran, you can't touch me. Otherwise, Qingyan Peak's Feng Qingyan won't be able to protect you. The entire 100 Qi Gate won't be able to protect you." Even though there were 20 or so martial master experts guarding in front of him, Zhao Xinyu still felt unsafe when he thought of the strength Yu Haoran had just revealed and his lightning-like speed. Therefore, while he threatened Yu Haoran, he used a special method to inform his nominal master, who was actually his biological father, Zhao Ji. "Oh, Zhao Xinyu, I'm afraid that all the disciples in the sect know about the special relationship between you and sect leader Zhao Ji." Hearing Zhao Xinyu's threat, especially when he said that even the 100 Qi Gate couldn't protect him, Yu Haoran immediately became interested. Therefore, he directly exposed the special relationship between Zhao Xinyu and Zhao Ji to test if he could find out the origin of the power behind Zhao Xinyu. With the aptitude that I, Yu Haoran, have just revealed and the assistance of the secret transformation technique, even if I kill you now, I'm afraid that Zhao Ji can't do anything to me. So, I don't know what you're really relying on. Or rather, who is your real backer? My mother is the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. At the moment of life and death, Zhao Xinyu, who cherished his life, ignored his father and mother's repeated warnings, and directly revealed who his real backer was. When he heard that Zhao Xinyu's mother was the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, Yu Haoran couldn't help but gasp. In the forest not far from the trial peak, when the expert surnamed Ma heard that Zhao Xinyu's mother was the Deputy Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, his face instantly darkened. The Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion was one of the 3 great chambers of commerce in the Tianxin continent. They mainly dealt in spiritual medicine, spiritual fruits, spiritual herbs, martial skills, mental cultivation methods, pills, magical weapons, strange beasts, and so on. It could be said that as long as it was a valuable treasure in the Tianxin continent, the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion had a way to find it and sell it at a very high price. Chapter 347. 100 Qi Gate, Trial Peak. In his previous life, due to his identity as an alchemist, Yu Haoran had interacted with the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion many times. However, most of the time, they had only traded and exchanged resources. Regarding the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, he did not know much. However, it was also because of his many business contacts that he had a rough understanding of the rules of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion from the staff of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. For example, the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion had the power structure of the first pavilion, second vice, third elder, fourth protector, fifth hall, sixth helm, and seventh manager. The first pavilion referred to the pavilion master of the heavenly fragrance pavilion. It was said that the pavilion master of the heavenly fragrance pavilion was a beautiful woman who had reached the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm. However, she usually went in and out of the pavilion with a veil covering her face. No one had seen her real face. Her beautiful face was only a guess. It was said that the veil covering the pavilion master of the heavenly fragrance pavilion was actually a special weapon of the upper grade of the exalt realm. Whoever could take off the veil on her face would be able to win her heart. Not only would he be able to win her heart, he would also be able to obtain the endless wealth of the heavenly fragrance pavilion. Of course, no one knew whether this rumor was true or not. This was because until his rebirth, he had never heard of anyone who could take off the veil on the face of the pavilion master of the heavenly fragrance pavilion. The second vice referred to the 2 vice pavilion masters of the heavenly fragrance pavilion. Although Yuhaurin also did not have the most direct contact with the 2 vice pavilion masters, he had heard some stories about the 2 vice pavilion masters. For example, the 2 vice pavilion masters of the heavenly fragrance pavilion were like the pavilion master. They were also extremely beautiful women. For example, the personalities of the 2 vice pavilion masters and the way they handled things were 2 extremes. One had a fiery temperament and did things swiftly and decisively. The other was as quiet as jade and did things without revealing anything. However, he did not know which vice pavilion master Zhao Sinyu's mother was. Chapter 348. 100 Chi Gate, Trial Peak. The reason why Zhao Sinyu lied, without blushing and his heart skipping a beat, was because there was no substantial evidence for the first 2 plots against him, except for the magic weapon that could restrict the transformation secret technique that Zhao Sinyu had just refined using the gold-devouring beetles' corpses. The heads of the 7 law enforcement peak disciples who had participated in the ambush and caused eldest senior brother to be seriously injured were still hanging on the big tree at the bottom of the Clear Breeze Peak. Zhao Zong, who had controlled the layout of the Blue Moon secret realm, had long died in the underground cave in the depths of the secret realm. Therefore, it was impossible to sentence Zhao Sinyu to death based on the conflict just now and the magic weapon that restricted the transformation secret technique. Although it wouldn't work, Yuhaurin had his own reasons for directly exposing it by lying. Firstly, he wanted to stall for time. He hoped that he could delay until the power of the magic weapon that restricted the transformation secret technique disappeared, so that he could transform into a Power King Kong ape and fight with Zhao Ji. He also wanted to let Zhao Ji and his disciples know that he, Yuhaurin, could not be provoked. Secondly, he wanted to let everyone in the sect know what kind of person his illegitimate son, Zhao Sinyu, was. He wanted to take the opportunity to weaken Zhao Ji's reputation and then increase the intensity of the sect's faction competition so that he could benefit from it. Yuhaurin, state your request. He didn't feel the slightest change in Yuhaurin's mood, which meant that he didn't lie just now. He must have evidence of Zhao Sinyu's plot to frame him. Now, it was the critical moment to strengthen the sect leader's faction with the support of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion behind Zhao Sinyu's mother. For the time being, it was not easy to have a direct conflict with Yuhaurin, who had the transformation secret technique and acted without scruples, and Feng Qingyun, who was behind him. Therefore, Zhao Ji planned to use the temptation of benefits to make Yuhaurin temporarily give up finding trouble with Zhao Sinyu. After all, Zhao Sinyu was someone that the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion was willing to support and help him. Now, nothing must happen to Zhao Sinyu. Otherwise, he would lose the support of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. This, seeing that Zhao Ji wanted to reconcile, Yuhaurin couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Actually, he was only pretending to be deep in thought. Right now, he was silently counting down in his heart, waiting for the power of the artifact that restricted the secret transformation technique to disappear. Just as Yuhaurin pretended to be deep in thought and waited for the power of the Dharma artifact to disappear, in the forest not far from the trial peak, Gao Wanping, who was wearing a light purple robe, silently appeared in the forest. Greetings, Peak Master. As an expert whose cultivation had reached the martial arts grandmaster realm, the expert surnamed Ma immediately sensed Gao Wanping's appearance and hurriedly stood up to greet him. Greetings, Peak Master. Everyone had been listening to Master Ma's narration of the conflict that had occurred at the bottom of the mountain. Therefore, his action of standing up and saluting was also noticed by the dozens of disciples present. Seeing that the Peak Master had come in person, the disciples led by Zhao hurriedly stood up and bowed. You're welcome. After indicating that everyone didn't need to be so polite, Gao Wanping looked at disciple Zhao with a smile on his face and praised. Zhao Lei, well done. Thank you for your kindness, Peak Master. To be able to receive the Peak Master's personal praise, Zhao Lei was in awe and trepidation at the same time as he hurriedly defended himself. Peak Master, actually I haven't done anything yet, let alone kill 2 birds with 1 stone in the end. Patting Zhao Lei's shoulder, Gao Wanping raised his head and looked in the direction of the trial peak as he softly muttered to himself. Your plan has already succeeded. Today, regardless of whether Zhao Ji and Yu Haoran reconcile or not, the conflict between them has already accumulated to the limit. Perhaps it won't be long before the Gate Masters faction and the Clear Cloud Peaks faction erupt into a faction life and death battle that hasn't occurred in the 100 Chi Gate for hundreds of years. Faction life and death battle. Hearing the Peak Master mention the faction life and death battle, Zhao Lei and Master Ma looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Peak Master, it shouldn't be that bad. Master Ma, who understood the cruelty and severity of the faction life and death battle, said in disbelief. The faction life and death battle is a battle to the death. Our 100 Chi Gate has existed for several thousand years, and the faction life and death battle has only occurred twice. However, those 2 factional life and death battles only happened because there was already an irreconcilable hatred between the 2 sides. At this point, the expert surnamed Ma raised his head and glanced at the trial peak. Although Yu Haoran's talent and potential are outstanding, and he also possesses a secret transformation technique, in the end, he is only a disciple who has just entered the sect. What qualifications does he have to decide the faction life and death battle? Let's wait and see. Gao Wanping didn't explain much in this regard. He only left behind these profound words and quietly watched the conversation below the trial peak. After pondering for nearly a minute and a half, Yu Haoran raised his head and looked at Zhao Ji as the energy barrier formed by the gold-devouring beetles began to fade. Gate Master, I only have 3 requests. Speak. He wasn't afraid of requests, but he was afraid of no requests. As long as Yu Haoran was willing to make a request, it meant that he wanted to reconcile. The first request is for Zhao Xinyu to kneel at the foot of Clear Cloud Peak for 3 days to atone for the 3 times he tried to frame me. Pointing at Zhao Xinyu, Yu Haoran raised his first request. No, even if I die, I won't kneel at the foot of Clear Cloud Peak. Before Zhao Ji could reply to Yu Haoran's first request, Zhao Xinyu angrily refused. Ignoring the furious Zhao Xinyu, Yu Haoran stared at Zhao Ji in the air and asked, Gate Master Zhao, what do you think? Coldly looking at Yu Haoran, Zhao Ji forcefully suppressed his anger and asked, Yu Haoran, since you also know of the special relationship between me and Xinyu, what difference does it make if he kneels or if I kneel? In that case, there's no room for discussion. Zhao Ji's categorical refusal was not out of Yu Haoran's expectations. Because he didn't want to reconcile, he waved his hands, indicating that there was no need to continue negotiating. At the same time, he planned to activate the large Power King Kong ape's blood essence that he hadn't consumed much of. Yu Haoran, change the condition. Looking at the red energy circle that was fading and finally disappearing, Zhao Ji, who had adjusted his emotions, said indifferently, asking people to kneel is indeed a bit excessive, especially in public. Even if it was an obviously insulting request like kneeling, Zhao Ji could resist the urge to attack. This could only mean one thing. Zhao Ji must have encountered a lot of trouble right now, causing him to not dare to make a move against him easily. It wasn't Yu Haoran's style to not take advantage of the situation, so he quickly changed his strategy and planned to cut off a few pieces of meat from Zhao Ji's body. Chapter 349. 100 Qi Gate Trial Peak. First, Zhao Xinyu is not allowed to plot against me in the future. Otherwise, I won't give anyone face and will kill him directly. After careful consideration, Yu Haoran made his first request. No problem. Not only did Yu Haoran take the initiative to change the conditions, but his first request was not excessive at all. This made Zhao Ji think that Yu Haoran had thought it through and was planning to reconcile. Therefore, Zhao Ji's originally gloomy expression gradually eased a lot, and he very readily nodded in agreement. Second, all the disciples of my clear cloud peak, whether now or in the future, have their status and treatment automatically upgraded by 1 level. The achievement hall will not allow any difficulties. Seeing that Zhao Ji had answered so readily, Yu Haoran couldn't help but laugh coldly in his heart. The first request was just an appetizer. The request that really gave Zhao Ji a headache had yet to come. Faced with Yu Haoran's second request, Zhao Ji carefully considered it and felt that this request was not excessive. Directly upgrading their status and treatment by 1 level would take up a portion of the sect's cultivation resources. However, the number of disciples in the Clear Cloud Peak was very small. Even if all of them were upgraded by 1 level, compared to the tens of thousands of disciples in the 100 Qi Gate, it was only a drop in the ocean. Okay. Therefore, Zhao Ji also very readily nodded in agreement. Third request, like Enforcer Peak. Your 100 Qi Peak's treasure vault must also be unconditionally open to me for 1 day. No, impossible. Hearing Yu Haoran's third request, Zhao Ji and Zhao Xinyu did not even consider it and rejected it at the same time. The empty Enforcer Peak's treasure vault was still there. Yu Haoran's bandit-like behavior was still vivid in their minds. How could Zhao Ji agree to let him enter the 100 Qi Peak's treasure vault and open it unconditionally for 1 day? Furthermore, a batch of cultivation resources from the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion had just been stored in the treasure vault not long ago. He even more could not allow Yu Haoran to sweep through it. Sect Leader Zhao, compared to the Enforcer Peak's Peak Master, whether it is courage, breadth of mind, or decisive character, you are far too lacking. Yu Haoran shook his head with a look of disappointment and sarcasm. In the forest not far from the Trial Peak, when Gao Wanping heard Yu Haoran compare himself to Yu Ji, he couldn't help but clench his fists in his sleeves. If it wasn't for the fact that he had grafted the demonic arts onto Ouyang Haoyu, he wouldn't have agreed to Yu Haoran's outrageous request. If they had known in advance that Yu Haoran had a storage device that could store a large number of items, they would have asked the senior statesman group and all the martial emperors of the other factions to join forces and defeat Yu Haoran, even if they had to pay a certain price. Originally, Gao Wanping's heart had been aching because he had lost the treasures he had accumulated for hundreds of years. Now that he heard Yu Haoran's comparison, his heart ached again. Yu Haoran, change your request. Even if Yu Haoran compared him to Gao Wanping, Zhao Ji could not agree to Yu Haoran's third request. He could only change his request again. Sect Leader Zhao, I've already given you enough face by not letting Zhao Xinyu kneel at the foot of my Clear Cloud Peak. However, you can't push your luck. Everything has to go according to your wishes. When Yu Haoran saw Zhao Ji reject him without any room for discussion, the unhappy Yu Haoran could not help but scold him angrily. Yu Haoran, your third request is too much. Seeing that Yu Haoran was going overboard and even directly criticizing him, the sect leader of the 100 Qi Gate, Zhao Ji could not suppress his anger and reprimanded him. Could it be that your Clear Cloud Peak's treasury is also open to me or Xinyu for a day without any restrictions? Of course. In the face of Zhao Ji's provocation, Yu Haoran did not hesitate at all and directly nodded in agreement. Before Feng Qingyun took over the position of Peak Master of Clear Cloud Peak status in 100 Qi Gate was even lower than that of Beastmaster Peak, let alone a treasury. Even in the years since Feng Qingyun became the Peak Master, Due to his aloof personality, the treasury had not collected any valuable treasures. Therefore, even if Zhao Ji uprooted the entire treasury of Clear Cloud Peak would not suffer any losses. Yu Haoran would also not have any objections. Zhao Ji hadn't expected that Yu Haoran would actually agree. This made him so angry that he was speechless. Yu Haoran's words had been used to prove the importance of a treasure trove to a faction, but Zhao Ji hadn't expected Yu Haoran to agree. Taking a few deep breaths, Zhao Ji suppressed the anger that rose in his heart when he was rebuked and said, Yu Haoran, I'll say it again. Change the condition. Seeing that Zhao Ji was unwilling to agree to the third request, no matter what, Yu Haoran knew that if he did not show some tricks and let the other party know his strength, Zhao Ji would not agree. Therefore, he directly activated the blood essence of the large power king, Kong Ape. After his cultivation and physical body had broken through to the martial master realm, whether it was his body's ability to adapt to the blood essence of exotic beasts or the speed at which he used the blood essence to transform into exotic beasts, it had at least increased by several times. In a short 5 seconds, Yu Haoran had transformed into a 64-meter-tall giant ape. Although she had heard her brother mention that Yu Haoran had the ability to transform into an exotic beast while they were escaping, Gongsun Yuding cried out in fright when she saw Yu Haoran standing over 60 meters tall like a mountain. Sister, don't worry. Gongsun Yiming hurriedly explained and comforted his sister after hearing her scream. Although Yu Shixiang is transformed into a large power King Kong ape, his consciousness is still Yu Shixiang, so he won't be in any danger. Roar. After transforming into a large power King Kong ape, his overall height had already surpassed Zhao Ji, who was standing in the air. So Yu Haoran roared at Zhao Ji from above, and then roared with a thunderous voice. Sect Leader Zhao, the 3 requests just now are Yu Haoran's bottom line. If you don't agree, then we can only fight. Yu Haoran, do you think I'm afraid of you? Seeing that Yu Haoran had transformed into a large power King Kong ape to threaten him, Zhao Ji, who was enraged, used the power of the Martial King realm to threaten him. Feeling that the aura arising from Zhao Ji's body had reached the peak of the 6th stage of the Martial King, Yu Haoran could not help but frown. This was because the large power King Kong ape's blood essence that Palace had gifted him was only at the 4th rank of the 5th step, which was the peak of the 4th stage of the Martial King realm. Although the strength of strange beasts was far stronger than human martial warriors, the higher the realm, the smaller the difference in strength between strange beasts and human martial warriors. In other words, even if he activated all the energy in the large power King Kong ape's blood essence, he would at most be able to unleash the strength of a peak 5th stage martial king and would still not be a match for Zhao Ji. Chapter 350 100 Qi Gate, Trial Peak. Yu Haoran, don't worry, I have a way to defeat Zhao Ji. Thowling hurriedly reminded Yu Haoran when he sensed the slight fluctuation of emotions in Zhao Ji's heart, as well as Zhao Ji's peak 6th grade martial emperor cultivation. Thowling, if I have to expose your existence in order to defeat Zhao Ji, I'd rather take a step back and change my request. After hearing Thowling's reminder, Yu Haoran mistakenly thought that Thowling wanted to use the power of his divine sense to secretly help him, so he hurriedly refused. It was different from the palace. The arrogant palace disdained to use any external help. Even if Thowling took the initiative to expose his existence, it would not cause the palace to be greedy and fight over him. However, if the existence of Thowling, especially the victor which contained the law of time and could accelerate time, was exposed, not to mention the martial emperors in the 100 Qi Gate, even the 7 top sects, the inherited families, and the reclusive martial emperors would fight over him. Yu Haoran, I can clearly guarantee you that before your cultivation reaches the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm and your strength reaches the martial emperor realm, I will never expose my existence, nor will I leak any information about Victor. Although Yu Haoran did not state the reason for his refusal, Thowling was very clear about his concerns and worries, so he hurriedly promised Yu Haoran. Thowling, what do you mean? If he did not use the help of his powerful divine sense, then how could he defeat Zhao Ji, who was slightly stronger than him? Yu Haoran, in the underground cave deep in the secret realm, when you unintentionally activated the battle consciousness left by the ancient monkey emperor in the Azawal cudgel, I've been thinking about how to make you better use the cudgel technique created by the monkey emperor. And in the spiritual fog, when the Azawal cudgel finally chose to leave, I finally decided that before your cultivation reaches the martial ancestor realm and you can't refine your life source magic weapon, I will refine a weapon for you that only needs to use the technique. Thankfully, you only need to use a third of the horn to increase the offensive strength of your intrinsic dermic artifact. With the remaining horn and some other materials, I finally managed to refine a rod that is as hard as a cudgel as I wish. It is able to completely withstand and execute that staff technique. At this point, a staff that was emitting a purple light, its shape and length very similar to my staff, appeared in Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness. His mind touched the purple cudgel, and at the same time, he recalled the moves and insights of the One Sky cudgel technique. Following that, Yu Haoran felt that the purple cudgel refined by Thaling was even closer to his mind, and could even increase the power of the One Sky cudgel technique. Thaling, thank you. Using his mind to take out the purple cudgel from his sea of consciousness, the battle consciousness of the One Sky cudgel directly fused into the purple cudgel. Following that, Yu Haoran, who had transformed into a large power King Kong ape, held the purple cudgel in his hand and directly soared into the air. All of his consciousness was fused into the battle comprehension of the One Sky cudgel technique. As a master of refining, the purple cudgel refined by Thaling also had the ability to shrink and shrink. Therefore, under the influence of the battle comprehension and consciousness of the One Sky cudgel technique, the purple cudgel instantly grew longer and thicker, quickly becoming a giant cudgel that was over 50 meters long. Following that, Yu Haoran roared, "One Sky cudgel technique." Yu Haoran, you're too arrogant. Do you really think that I, Zhao Ji, won't be able to deal with you just because you transformed into a mutated beast and have the strength of a mutated beast? Turning his head to look at Qingyun Peak, he did not feel Feng Qingyun's aura. Zhao Ji knew that Feng Qingyun was either not at Qingyun Peak, or he would not interrupt the battle between the two for the time being. Therefore, he roared angrily and soared into the sky. He planned to teach Yu Haoran a lesson and let him know that the secret transformation technique was not omnipotent. However, just as Zhao Ji soared into the sky and was about to approach, the purple cudgel in Yu Haoran's hands that had grown longer and thicker, an aura of death caused his expression to change. With a sweep of his mind, he discovered that the source of the danger of death was actually the staff technique that Yu Haoran was currently using. In the forest not far away from the trial peak, when Yu Haoran transformed into a power King Kong ape and was about to fight with Zhao Ji, Gao Wamping could not help but be overjoyed. Finally, there was someone who could follow in his footsteps and not let him become the laughingstock of the 100 Qi Gates upper echelons. However, when Zhao Ji revealed his cultivation at the peak of the 6th level of the Martial King realm, Gao Wamping's face immediately darkened. This was because he did not expect that Zhao Ji, whose talent and potential were not as good as his, would actually catch up to him silently and even surpass him. This made Gao Wamping feel very surprised. Fortunately, as long as his cultivation increased to the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm, and then directly transferred all his power into Ouyang Haoyu's body, then he could use the grafting of demonic arts to break through to the Martial Saint realm in one fell swoop. Therefore, when Zhao Ji revealed his cultivation and strength, Gao Wamping only felt a little surprised. He did not feel too much pressure himself. However, when he felt Yu Haoran's staff technique, he was immediately stunned by the terrifying power formed by the staff technique. Especially the aftermath of the power formed by the staff technique, which directly destroyed the void above the trial peak, he could not help but guess. The power of the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm. Shaking his head, Gao Wamping knew that although this level of power could also tear the void, it was far from the extent of the aftermath of the purple staff technique's power. The power of the early stage of the martial saint realm. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Gao Wamping rejected it, because the power of the early stage of the martial saint realm could not reach this level of power without using the power of law. In the end, Gao Wanping rated the power of this staff technique as the peak of the 9th level of the martial saint realm. Although Gao Wanping rated the power of the skyward staff technique as the peak of the 9th level of the martial saint realm, Zhao Ji, who was under the attack of the staff, was very clear that the power of the skyward staff Yuhaoran was now beyond the peak of the 9th level of the martial saint realm, close to the power of the martial saint realm. At this moment, Zhao Ji's heart was filled with endless regret. If he had known that Yuhaoran had such a strong attack power, he would have agreed to Yuhaoran's 3 requests from the beginning and would not have put himself in a dangerous situation. Fortunately, it was not too late to agree now. Therefore, Zhao Ji gathered the power of the peak of the 6th level of the martial saint realm and directly shouted at Yuhaoran. Junior apprentice nephew Yu, I agree to your 3rd request just now. Please stop. As long as the skyward staff was used, it could not be stopped at all. Moreover, Yuhaoran also did not expect that the purple staff refined by Thaling would be able to unleash the power of the skyward staff technique, not losing to the as I wish staff in the slightest. Therefore, after hearing Zhao Ji's request, although Yuhaoran wanted to withdraw the skyward staff technique, he was unable to control the attack of the staff technique. Helpless, he could only try his best to change the direction of the skyward staff technique's attack and loudly remind him. Quickly avoid the range of the staff technique's attack. After hearing Yuhaoran's reminder, Zhao Ji immediately knew that even if Yuhaoran transformed into the 4th level of the 5th level of the Power King Kong Ape, he would still be unable to control the staff technique that was close to the power of the martial saint realm. In order to avoid being affected by the power of the staff, while Zhao Ji dodged, he directly took Zhao Xinyu away from the crowd. Chapter 351. 100 Chi Gate, Trial Peak. Boom! As the sky-facing stick technique hit the ground heavily, a crack that was about 10,000 meters long, dozens of meters deep, and nearly 100 meters wide suddenly appeared on the ground. The crack stretched from the foot of the trial peak all the way to the foot of Xianyan Peak. Zhao Ji, who was lucky enough to escape the sky-facing stick technique, looked at the huge crack that was about 10,000 meters long, dozens of meters deep, and nearly 100 meters wide. His face showed a trace of fear. If he had dodged a little later, he would have been affected by the power of the sky-facing stick technique just now. The consequences of being affected would have been severe injuries, even if he did not die. Zhao Xinyu, who was being held in Zhao Ji's hand, looked even more frightened after seeing the crack below, because he had never thought that Yuhaoran not only had the secret method of transformation, but also the real method of invincibility in the 100 Chi Gate. At the same time, he also knew that with such a top demon-level aptitude and such powerful strength and methods, his mother would be willing to sacrifice herself in order to please him. Yuhaoran, not only could he not provoke him in the future, but he would also try to avoid him as much as possible. Gao Wanping, who had left the woods in advance with his men to avoid the attack range of the sky-facing stick technique, was also stunned as he looked at the crack that was about 10,000 meters long. While a trace of horror flashed in his eyes, he also made a decision in his heart. That was to improve his cultivation as soon as possible, merge with Ouyang Haoyu as soon as possible, and then leave the 100 Chi Gate. Otherwise, if they lived together in the same sect, there would be conflicts sooner or later due to various unexpected events. He did not want to face the sky-facing stick technique that Yuhaoran had just used one day. In fact, Gao Wanping was not the only one who had this idea. In the 37 peaks of the 100 Chi Gate, as long as they were masters of the martial arts Grandmaster realm, they were all awakened by the sky-facing stick technique that Yuhaoran had just used. They had also witnessed the terrifying power of the sky-facing stick technique with their own eyes. At this moment, in their hearts, Yu Haoran's danger level was directly raised to the highest level. They used the power of divine thoughts to summon all the disciples in the sect for a meeting. There was only one thing for the meeting. No matter what Yu Haoran wanted to do, even if he wanted to set fire to their own faction's mountain peak or urinate, they pretended not to see it. If anyone provoked Yu Haoran and made him unhappy, don't think that the sect would stand up for you. You either have to beg for Yu Haoran's forgiveness or commit suicide to appease Yu Haoran's anger. Big brother, was all of this really caused by Yu Shixiao? Gongsun Yuding asked with a trembling voice as she pointed at the crack that she couldn't see the end of. I think so, probably so. Gongsun Yiming was confused and didn't know how to answer his sister's question. Although he had heard that Yu Haoran could unleash the original strength of an exotic beast after transforming into one, he had never known that he could unleash an even more powerful strength after transforming into an exotic beast. Zhao Ji, the leader of the 100 Feet sect, whose cultivation had reached the martial royal realm, did not even have the courage to resist and directly admitted defeat. This was enough to show how terrifying the power of Yu Haoran's staff technique was. At this moment, Gongsun Yiming felt honored and proud to join the 100 Qi Gate and become a disciple of Qinyan Peak. Zhao Zhong, who had just been sent flying by Yu Haoran, saw that Yu Haoran was able to erupt with such a powerful strength, forcing Sect Master Zhao Ji to take the initiative to admit defeat. His heart, which was originally like dead ashes, actually revealed a happy smile on his face, as if dying in Yu Haoran's hands was a very honorable thing. Then, this smile hung on his face forever, and he slowly closed his eyes. Inhale, calm down. Yu Haoran landed in front of Gongsun Yiming and his sister after performing the Skyward Strike. He took a few deep breaths and barely suppressed the boiling blood in his body. An uncontrollable excitement appeared on his ape face. Originally, he thought that after losing the staff, as I like it, he would no longer be able to perform the Skyward Strike that was close to the martial venerable realm. However, he had never expected that the purple staff that the Tower Spirit had refined in such a short period of time would not only allow him to use the Skyward Strike, but the power of the staff technique would also not be inferior to the Skyward Strike that he had used with the As I Wish staff. Not only that, the consumption of exotic beast blood essence was a third of what it took to use the rod As I Wish. How could Yu Haoran not feel excited? Fowling, thank you. Although there were thousands of words of gratitude in his heart, he could only express his gratitude in the end. Yu Haoran, actually the purple staff is only half refined. It could be considered a semi-finished product. Facing Yu Haoran's gratitude, Fowling did not say much, but he was still very gratified in his heart. At the same time, through Yu Haoran's use of the purple staff earlier, he realized that the purple staff he had refined was not perfect. There were still some flaws. In the future, if you are able to meet a descendant with the bloodline of the Monkey Emperor, it would be best if you can extract their blood essence and fuse it with the staff. This way, not only will you be able to perfect the staff, you will also have a 90% chance of obtaining the Monkey Emperor's set of staff techniques. I understand. Yu Haoran nodded heavily. He knew that in his following training life, other than searching for the treasures and the memories of his previous life and finding out the secrets of the demon-sealing secret realm, he now had another difficult task. Sect Leader Zhao, does the third request you agreed to earlier still count? Yu Haoran asked while waving the purple staff in his hand. Of course it counts. Seeing Yu Haoran waving the purple staff in his hand, Zhao Ji hurriedly nodded and promised as he recalled the terrifying staff technique that was close to the power of the martial honorable realm. The 100 Feet Peak's treasury is unconditionally open to Martial Nephew Yu for one day. Martial Nephew Yu Haoran is free to choose from the treasures in the treasury. The 100 Feet Peak will not make things difficult for you or keep anything for yourself. At least you know what's good for you. After hearing Zhao Ji's promise, Yu Haoran nodded as he put away the purple staff. He then turned around, intending to call the Gongsun siblings and leave. Seeing that Yu Haoran had not only put away the purple staff, but also turned around to leave, Zhao Ji could not help but heave a sigh of relief. After that, He planned to quickly return to the 100 feet peak and transfer the batch of resources that he had just put into the treasury. Otherwise, with Yu Haoran's vicious eyes, the batch of resources would very likely expose his plan. As for the other treasures in the treasury, he had always carried the most precious ones with him. Even if Yu Haoran emptied the entire treasury, he would still be able to accept it. However, just as Zhao Ji was praying that Yu Haoran would leave quickly, Yu Haoran, who had already turned around to leave, suddenly turned around and made another request. Chapter 352. 100 Qi Gate, Trial Peak. Marshal Nephew, please speak. Yu Haoran's sudden request for additional conditions made Zhao Ji extremely dissatisfied. However, considering the powerful strength that Yu Haoran had just displayed and his unscrupulous way of doing things, he could only suppress his dissatisfaction and speak with an obsequious smile. From today onwards, Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding are disciples of our Qingyun Peak. I hope sect leader Zhao can inform the ancient town sect of this, Yu Haoran said domineeringly as he pointed at Gongsun Yiming and his sister. No problem. Zhao Ji secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Yu Haoran's additional conditions for accepting 2 disciples who had defected from the ancient town sect. With his relationship with the ancient town sect leader Zhao Ji, he only needed to send a subordinate to inform him of this matter. It was not a condition at all. Therefore, Zhao Ji's reply was very straightforward. Of course, if the ancient town sect is dissatisfied with anything or wants to reason with me, they can come to Qingyun Peak to find me. I'm a very easy person to talk to. After leaving behind a seemingly reasonable but actually unreasonable threat, Yu Haoran directly grabbed Gongsun Yiming and his sister, then soared into the sky and rushed towards Qingyun Peak. Return 100 Qi Peak. After Yu Haoran left the trial peak with Gongsun Yiming and his sister, the smile on Zhao Ji's face instantly turned gloomy. He turned his head to look at Zhao Xinyu and ordered through gritted teeth. Today, Zhao Ji, had lost a lot of face. The dignified sect leader of a second-rate sect, a powerhouse at the peak of the 6th-grade martial emperor realm, had actually been forced to admit defeat by a martial master disciple from his own sect. He even had to hand over the collection that the sect leader had accumulated over hundreds of years. He was afraid that in the future, he would become the target of ridicule. How could the proud and arrogant Zhao Ji not feel angry and depressed? Sect Master, since Yu Haoran will only go to the treasury tomorrow, why don't we take advantage of this time to move all the treasures in the treasury and leave him with an empty treasury? Although Zhao Xinyu had already decided that he would absolutely not provoke Yu Haoran in the future, when he thought about how he was about to hand over the treasure trove that should have belonged to him, Zhao Xinyu still felt extremely unwilling. Therefore, he did not pay attention to Zhao Ji's gloomy expression and made a suggestion. If you want that staff technique that Yu Haoran used just now to directly hit the 100-feet peak, then you can empty the entire treasury in advance. Looking coldly at Zhao Xinyu, Zhao Ji was furious. He could not help but have a question in his heart. Both he and the deputy pavilion master of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion could be said to be dragons and phoenixes among men. Regardless of talent and potential or intelligence, they were all outstanding. How could their son be so stupid and ignorant? If he had not witnessed Zhao Xinyu's birth with his own eyes, he would have doubted whether Zhao Xinyu was really his son. If not for the fact that he still needed Zhao Xinyu as a link in the deal between him and the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, according to his personality, he would have already slapped Zhao Xinyu into minced meat. If he continued to stay in this world, not only would he embarrass himself, but he would also cause trouble for himself. The more he looked at Zhao Xinyu, the more annoyed Zhao Ji felt. He had originally wanted to bring him back to the 100-feet peak, but now he immediately dismissed the idea. You all return to the 100-feet peak yourselves. After giving the order, Zhao Ji shot into the sky and headed straight for the 100-feet peak. Peak Master, what should we do? Looking at Yu Haoran and Zhao Ji leaving the trial peak, Zhao Lei asked. Because Yu Haoran's staff technique was too powerful, Just the aftermath of the staff technique's power had destroyed the forest they were hiding in. Therefore, without the cover of the trees, Gao Wanping and the others were directly exposed to the crowd. There was no need for the master surnamed Ma to use his divine consciousness to explain the situation at the bottom of the trial peak. Continue to act according to your plan. Looking at Zhao Ji, who was quickly returning to the 100-feet peak, a strange smile flashed across Gao Wanping's face. He then turned to Zhao Lei and the others and ordered, "Understood." Gao Wanping's accumulated prestige over the years made the dozens of Enforcer Peak disciples at the scene habitually obey. But considering the strength Yu Haoran had just revealed and Zhao Ji's interference, Zhao Lei, who thought more, finally mustered up the courage to ask, "Peak Master, what should we do about Yu Haoran and the Sect Master? After we take down Zhao Xinyu and the others, make a trip to the Clear Cloud Peak and tell him about the rules of the Enforcer Peak that Zhao Xinyu violated. With Yu Haoran's intelligence and wisdom, he will definitely guess why we are doing this and will remember this favor." Looking up in the direction of the Clear Cloud Peak, Gao Wanping ordered, "As for the Sect Master Zhao Ji, you don't have to worry. I have my own ways to deal with him." "Yes." After hearing Gao Wanping's explanation and orders, Zhao Lei's eyes couldn't help but light up. He then hurriedly bowed and led the dozens of Enforcer Peak disciples towards Zhao Xinyu and the others. Clear Cloud Peak. Junior Gongsun, there are very few disciples in the Clear Cloud Peak. Including me and Junior Wu, there are only 10 people in total. Standing on the grass in front of the courtyard of the Hidden Moon Pavilion, Yu Haoran pointed at the dozens of courtyards that were exactly the same and introduced them. "Now, you and Yuding are basically considered disciples of our Qingyan Peak. You can choose a side courtyard as your place of cultivation." Looking at the dozens of courtyards and the beautiful environment, Gongsun Yuding asked in surprise, "I can choose at will." Although Gongsun Yiming's talent and potential were outstanding, he was, after all, an orphan with no one to rely on and no one to support him. Therefore, their living conditions in the ancient town sect were very ordinary. Her brother, Gongsun Yiming, lived in a courtyard with 3 other disciples with slightly more talent and potential. As for her, Gongsun Yuding, she lived in a row of dilapidated wooden houses with a group of odd-job female disciples. The environment was bad, and the conditions were bad. She, who had suffered since she was young, could endure it. The only thing that she couldn't endure was that among the odd-job female disciples, some of the more muscular female disciples looked at her with an expression that made her afraid. Especially when she was bathing, those female disciples would secretly peek at her. Therefore, Gongsun Yuding had long wanted to move away from the place that made her feel afraid. What she hoped for the most was to have an independent environment that completely belonged to her. As long as it's not a courtyard that people live in, Yuding, you can choose at will. Choose at will, Yu Haoran said with a smile. Hearing Yu Haoran's affirmation, Gongsun Yuding immediately jumped up and cheered. "That's great. Junior brother Gongsun, I'll take you to see Master now, and then you can perform the apprenticeship ceremony." After waiting for Gongsun Yuding's joyful mood to calm down a little, Yu Haoran turned his head and ordered Gongsun Yiming. "Yes, Yu Shixiao." After respectfully responding, Gongsun Yiming directly pulled Gongsun Yuding to his side and motioned for her to be quiet for a while. Regarding this, Yu Haoran just smiled and didn't say anything. Then, he took the brother and sister and went straight to the Pingzheng residence. Originally, according to Yu Haoran's idea, he wanted to let Gongsun Yiming and his sister meet Master after a period of time, so as to give Master enough time to heal. But just as he brought Gongsun Yiming and his sister back to Qingyan Peak, he unexpectedly heard Master's spiritual sense transmission, telling him to bring Gongsun Yiming and his sister to see him now. How could Yu Haoran, who had previously studied the 7 insects, 7 flowers powder refined by the 5 poisons old man, not know how strong the toxicity was? Chapter 353. Qingyan Peak. But Master, it had been less than a day and a night since he was poisoned. In such a short time, he was able to break the seal of the poison and use the power of his divine sense. This made Yu Haoran feel that his master was powerful, and he was also very interested in how he was able to neutralize the 7 insects and 7 flowers powder in such a short time. Bringing Gongsun Yiming and his sister to the fair residence, he found that the courtyard door was already open. Gesturing to Gongsun Yiming and his sister, Yu Haoran brought them into the cultivation room, where Feng Qingyun was cultivating in seclusion. Seeing Feng Qingyun sitting cross-legged on a praying mat, his expression and state not much different from usual, Yu Haoran could not help but be stunned. No matter how powerful Feng Qingyun was, no matter how special the power of law he comprehended was, it was impossible for him to neutralize the poison of the 7 insects and 7 flowers powder in such a short time. Otherwise, the 7 insects and 7 flowers powder would not be ranked 19th in the Tianxian continent. Haoran, don't look at Master's unfathomable appearance. In fact, my state is the same as when I just returned to Qingyun Peak. Seeing the stunned Yu Haoran, although Feng Qingyun had a gentle smile on his face, the tone of his divine sense transmission was very weak. I've heard of Gongsun Yiming before. He is not only a top genius whose talent and potential are not inferior to your 8th senior brother, but also a good seedling who values friendship and righteousness. He is worth cultivating. Although I don't know what method you used to make him leave the ancient town sect and willingly become a disciple of Qingyun Peak, Master knows that you did this for the sake of Qingyun Peak. As a disciple, you worked so hard, so Master will definitely not let you lose face. So, I use a secret method that can temporarily suppress the poison in my body. Not only can I use my divine sense, but my mental state also looks normal. After the apprenticeship ceremony, I will completely sink into the process of self-healing. As for when I can wake up, it will depend on the effect of self-healing. Hearing that his master did not want him to lose face in front of Gongsun Yiming and his sister and forced him to use the secret method with side effects, Yu Haoran was deeply moved. He also decided to go down the mountain as soon as possible and help his master to find the plant insects needed to detoxify the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder. Haoran, aren't you going to introduce him a master? After nodding at Yu Haoran, Feng Qingyun gently looked at Gongsun Yiming and his sister. Master, this is Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding. Junior brother Gongsun was originally an outstanding elite disciple of the ancient town faction. He had the talent and potential of a peak martial emperor. Because junior brother Gongsun was treated unfairly by the faction in the Blue Moon Mystery Realm and almost lost his life there. In the end, he was saved by me. In order to repay me for saving his life and to escape the pursuit of the ancient town faction, junior brother Gongsun decided to bring his sister to join the 100 Qi Gate and become a disciple of Qingyun Peak. Yu Haoran introduced with half of the truth and half of the lies. After all, he could not say that the reason why he tried so hard to rope in Gongsun Yiming was because of his sister, Gongsun Yuding. It was even more impossible to say that he knew that Gongsun Yuding had talent and potential that far surpassed her brother's. In the future, she would become a peerless expert whose name would shake the Tianxian continent. In response to Yu Haoran's half-truth explanation, Gongsun Yiming nodded cooperatively to prove the truth of what he had just said. Since that's the case, then I'll accept the both of you. In fact, there was no need for Yu Haoran to explain in such detail. Feng Qingyun would have accepted the Gongsun Yiming siblings on account of him. Therefore, he did not think about whether Yu Haoran's words were true or false. When he agreed to accept the Gongsun siblings, he also gave the same guarantee as Yu Haoran. Gongsun Yiming, if the ancient town faction is dissatisfied with you joining the 100 Qi Gate and becoming a disciple of Qingyun Peak, you can ask them to come find me directly. I will give them a reasonable explanation. Thank you, Peak Master. Seeing that Feng Qingyun was as domineering as Yu Haoran, Gongsun Yiming hurriedly pulled his sister to thank him. Yiming, although you are older than Haoran, Haoran and Zhengjun entered the sect first. Therefore, you can only be ranked 11th among the disciples. Although using the secret technique to suppress the poison made Feng Qingyun look normal. Every minute the secret technique was used, the threat of the secret technique's backlash would increase by a bit. Therefore, Feng Qingyun decided to save as much of the red tape as possible. Yes, Master. Regarding the ranking of the disciples, every sect's disciples were basically arranged according to this convention. Therefore, Gongsun Yiming did not have any objections or dissatisfaction. Gongsun Yuding, you are Master's 12th disciple and the only female disciple of Qingyun Peak. Feng Qingyun said to Gongsun Yuding with a smile. Yuding greets Master. Gongsun Yuding excitedly bowed. Yuding, Master is now at the critical moment of breaking through and is temporarily unable to leave the cultivation room. So, wait until I have a breakthrough in my cultivation level. Then you can perform the ceremony of taking me as your master. Seeing the cute and obedient Gongsun Yuding, Feng Qingyun's heart was filled with joy. However, the moment he relaxed his mind, the poison of the 7 insects, 7 flowers poison quickly attacked him. Originally, Feng Qingyun wanted to complete the ceremony, but he decided to temporarily postpone it. Master, junior brother Gongsun, and junior sister Gongsun's following procedures and cultivation will be handled by this disciple. You should use this time to cultivate. Yu Haoran, who had been paying attention to Feng Qingyun's condition, clearly saw his master frown just now. He knew that the secret technique's effect was about to disappear, so he quickly suggested, "Okay, everything will be handled by you." Nodding to Yu Haoran, Feng Qingyun slowly closed his eyes. "Let's go." Gesturing to the Gongsun Yiming siblings, Yu Haoran led them out of the cultivation room and out of the peace residence. Junior brother Yiming, junior sister Yuding, I'll take you to see eldest senior brother. Turning his head to look at the automatically closing courtyard door, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a trace of worry. Then, he readjusted his emotions and smiled at the Gongsun Yiming siblings. First of all, eldest senior brother will be in charge of all the affairs of the peak. After you enter the sect, eldest senior brother will personally help you with all the procedures and treatment. Second of all, eldest senior brother will gather all the disciples of the Qingyun faction and let everyone get to know each other. Third of all, since today is junior sister Yuding's day of adulthood, it's a good opportunity to test junior sister Yuding's talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance in front of all the senior brothers. Then, based on her aptitude, we can make reasonable arrangements for her cultivation. Everything will be decided by Yu Shixiao. Gongsun Yiming did not have any objections to Yu Haoran's arrangements and gestured to him to make all the arrangements. In front of the Qingju Pavilion, just as Yu Haoran led the Gongsun Yiming siblings to the Qingju Pavilion where Chu Jingyu lived and was about to knock on the door to greet him, a powerful aura suddenly came from the Qingju Pavilion. Great! Eldest senior brother has finally broken through to the martial king realm. After feeling the aura, Yu Haoran could not help but exclaim happily. Hearing Yu Haoran say that the eldest senior brother they were about to meet, Chu Zhongyu, was breaking through to the martial king realm, Gongsun Yiming could not help but feel happy and excited. Chapter 354. Qingyun Peak, in front of Qingju Pavilion. If Qingyun Peak flourished, Gongsun Yiming would have a chance to stand out in the future and face the ancient town faction as a winner. If Qingyun's faction fell, then Gongsun Yiming could only fall along with Qingyun's faction. After all, he chose to betray the ancient town faction by leaving. This kind of betrayal was not tolerated or accepted by any sect or power. In other words, he could only live as a member of Qingyun Peak and die as a ghost of Qingyun Peak. Now that eldest senior brother had successfully broken through to the martial king realm, Qingyun Peak only had 2 martial king realm experts. In addition, Yu Haoran, who had the secret transformation technique and could exert the strength of a martial emperor, Qingyun Peak had officially risen. As Chu Zhongyu was breaking through to the martial king realm, Yu Haoran did not rashly disturb him. He motioned for Gongsun Yiming and his sister to follow him and retreated distance. He quietly felt the aura and the fluctuations of power when Chu Zhongyu broke through to the martial king realm. The aura formed when a martial king broke through to the martial king realm covered an area of dozens of miles. So it also alarmed the disciples of Qingyan Peak who were cultivating in seclusion. They all left their seclusion and rushed to Qingju Pavilion. Ninth junior brother, you've been here for a long time. The first person to arrive at Qingju Pavilion was the strongest third senior brother, Dong Mingyu. Third senior brother. Nodding to Dong Mingyu, Yu Haoran did not immediately introduce Gong Sun Yiming and his sister. He planned to wait until everyone had arrived before doing so. Following Dong Mingyu's arrival, the remaining disciples of Qingyun Peak all arrived at Qingju Pavilion in the next minute or so. Moreover, 8th senior brother Lin Xian, who had just broken through to the martial grandmaster realm and was trying his best to consolidate his realm, also appeared in front of Qingju Pavilion. Looking at the people who had arrived in front of Qingju Pavilion without any arrangements, they automatically dispersed and took the initiative to protect Chu Zhongyu, who was breaking through to the martial king realm. Gong Sun Yiming felt touched and envious. This was because the subconscious actions of Yu Haoran and the others were enough to show how deep their relationship was and how much trust they had in each other. This kind of deep affection and trust was what Gong Sun Yiming had always wanted. 20 minutes later, as the momentum that had reached its peak gradually began to fall, Yu Haoran and the others who were guarding the Qingju Pavilion gathered together with relaxed expressions. Gong Sun Yiming, when did you arrive? Seeing Gong Sun Yiming and his sister standing beside Yu Haoran, Wu Zhengjun asked happily. Among the 10 disciples of Qingyun Peak, Wu Zhengjun not only knew Gong Sun Yiming, but also knew the reason why Gong Sun Yiming appeared at Qingyun Peak. Senior brother Wu, do you want to ask me about the time I arrived at the 100 Qi Gate or the time I entered the Qingyun Peak? The 10 disciples of Qingyun Peak were able to protect their eldest senior brother without any instructions, which showed that they had a deep relationship with each other. However, at the trial peak, when Yu Haoran was restricted by Zhao Sinyu's special celestial device and secret method of transformation, none of the disciples of Qingyun Peak appeared. This could only mean that they were either cultivating in seclusion at that time or were delayed by other things. Therefore, Gong Sun Yiming planned to go through Wu Zhengjuan's interrogation and tell the senior brothers what happened at the bottom of the trial peak in detail. In this way, he could increase his position in Yu Haoran's mind and also hope that with Yu Haoran's help, he could integrate into the Qingyun Peak as soon as possible. Hearing Gong Sun Yiming's 2 questions, Wu Zhengjun was slightly stunned. Then he remembered Gong Sun Yiming's identity and quickly asked, Junior brother Gong Sun, what happened? Senior brother Wu, senior brothers, it's like this. After that, Gong Sun Yiming recounted everything that had happened after he had arrived at the trial peak. He did not omit anything at all. Gong Sun Yiming also interjected from time to time, telling them how she felt at that time. 9 junior brother, I don't mean to scold you. After hearing Gong Sun Yiming's detailed description, Lu Guangwei and the others suddenly felt very guilty. In fact, the trial peak and Qingyun Peak were not too far apart, less than 100 miles away. At such a close distance, after such a fierce fight, they did not immediately use their divine thoughts to check, which meant that they did not pay attention to Yu Haoran at all. However, at the same time, Lu Guangwei, who was the oldest and had the highest status, could not help but criticize. You once said that the reason why Qingyun Peak could be feared by the other sects was that we were a whole. No matter what difficulties we faced, we always advanced and retreated together. But what about you? Lu Guangwei raised his hand and pointed at Yu Haoran, questioning him. Raging against the achievement hall, killing your way up to the law enforcement peak alone, and going against the sect leader. Have you ever considered your own safety before doing such dangerous things? Have you ever thought about what you're doing by yourself? Have you ever thought about what you're doing to us? In the future, we can still shamelessly accept your selfless gifts and have a nerve to go out and say that we are Yu Haoran's senior brothers. Second senior brother, don't be angry. It happened so suddenly that junior brother Gong Sun and the others were in danger, so I did not have time to inform you. Whether it was in his previous life or this life, this was the first time that he had seen the mild-tempered second senior brother get angry. So Yu Haoran hurriedly apologized and patted his chest. Second senior brother, don't worry. If something like this happens again in the future, I will definitely inform you first, and then the entire Qingyun faction will move out to show the unity and strength of our faction. Ninth junior brother, remember your promise today. Yu Haoran's obedient attitude made Lu Guangwei's anger dissipate, and his attitude became much more peaceful. By the way, senior brothers, let me introduce them to you. Seeing that his second senior brother had finally calmed down and that his third senior brother, who was the strongest among them, was about to continue lecturing him, Yu Haoran quickly changed the topic. This handsome, confident, and imposing young man is called Gongsun Yiming. He was originally the most talented person in the younger generation of the Ancient Town sect, and also the strongest in the martial warrior realm. Pointing at Gongsun Yiming, Yu Haoran praised him vigorously. Because of various reasons, and because I tried my best to rope him in, junior brother Gongsun has now become a disciple of our Qingyun faction. At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at Gongsun Yuding and continued the introduction. This beautiful girl is called Gongsun Yuding, and she is junior brother Gongsuin's younger sister. Now, she is also a disciple of our Qingyun faction. Moreover, Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding have already met Master and have officially become his disciples. Gongsun Yiming greets all senior brothers. Gongsun Yuding greets all senior brothers. After hearing Yu Haoran's introduction, Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding hurriedly bowed. Junior brother Gongsun and junior sister Gongsuin's matter was too sudden, and I didn't prepare any greeting gifts. I will definitely make it up to you the next time we meet. Hearing that Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding had already become disciples, Lu Guangwei was overjoyed. However, when he thought about how he didn't prepare anything as a senior brother, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Second senior brother, you can't treat them differently. Seeing his second senior brother's embarrassed look, Yu Haoran thought about how he was ridiculed for no reason just now. Suddenly, he had the thought of teasing him and hurriedly complained. When junior brother Wu and I became disciples, second senior brother didn't even mention a greeting gift, let alone give us one. Chapter 355. Qingyun Peak in front of Qingju Pavilion. I forgot about it. Lu Guangwei did not know how to respond to Yu Haoran's teasing. He could only express his apology with a guilty expression. That's enough. Ninth junior brother. Don't joke with second senior brother. After a few months of contact, everyone present knew Yu Haoran's character. They knew that his complaint just now was just a joke. Only second senior brother, who was more straightforward and didn't know how to be flexible, would be fooled. Therefore, Huang Zonghua took the initiative to step forward. He patted Yu Haoran's shoulder to stop him from teasing them, and turned to Gongsun Yiming and his sister. Junior brother Yiming, junior sister Yuding, don't listen to ninth junior brother's complaints. Qingyun Peak has never had the custom of giving a greeting gift. The reason second senior brother lost his composure just now was because you and your sister joined us. Qingyun Peak has become more prosperous. He was so excited that he couldn't help but lose his composure. Fifth senior brother, it's okay. Hearing Huang Zhonghua's explanation, Gongsun Yiming quickly waved his hand, indicating that he did not misunderstand and did not care about the greeting gift. Come in. Just as Huang Zonghua was explaining that Yu Haoran's complaints were just teasing them, Chu Zhongyu's calm voice came from Qingju Pavilion. Let's go. Second senior brother signaled and stepped into Qingju Pavilion. After breaking through to the martial king realm, Chu Zhongyu did not stay in the cultivation room to consolidate his cultivation. Instead, he sat in the pavilion and looked at the people entering the courtyard with a smile. Although the overall change was not big, Yu Haoran found that Chu Zhongyu's aura was more restrained. He knew that his breakthrough this time was not just a breakthrough to the martial king realm. You must be 11th junior brother Gongsun Yiming and 12th junior sister Gongsun Yuding, whom Master has just accepted. Chu Zhongyu asked with a smile before Yu Haoran could introduce them. Gongsun Yiming greets eldest senior brother. Gongsun Yuding greets eldest senior brother. Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding hurriedly saluted when they saw Chu Zhongyu directly questioning them. Although I've never heard of junior sister Gongsuan's name, I've heard of junior brother Gongsuan's great name. As Chu Zhongyu, who was in charge of the affairs of Qingyun Peak, he often dealt with people from the outside world. How could he not have heard of a top genius like Gongsun Yiming? Compared to Yu Shi Xiang, junior brother's aptitude is far inferior. Gongsun Yiming hurriedly said modestly in response to Chu Zhongyu's praise. Don't compare yourself to him. Your ninth senior brother is no longer human. It's not surprising that he's a monster now, Chu Zhongyu said helplessly. Although the other disciples of Qingyun Peak didn't pay attention to the conflict on the trial peak, as the eldest senior brother of Qingyun Peak, Chu Zhongyu understood and was familiar with Yu Haoren's personality. How could he not pay attention? Therefore, when he saw Zhao Xinyu use a magic weapon to restrict Yu Haoren from transforming into a strange beast to deal with the current predicament, Chu Zhongyu's first reaction was to go and help. However, he was at a crucial moment in his soul's transformation. If he forcefully stopped his soul's transformation, not only would he suffer the backlash of failing to break through, but his soul would also lose the opportunity to transform and would forever remain at the peak of 9th grade martial ancestor realm. Therefore, he could only use pills to increase the speed of his soul's transformation while constantly paying attention to the conflict. When Yu Haoren continuously revealed that he had broken through to the martial master realm and finally reached the middle of 5th grade martial master, Chu Zhongyu was so shocked that he almost went crazy. This was because he was the same as most people. He had never seen or heard of anyone who could break through 5 small realms in a row while breaking through to the martial master realm, crossing over 22 small realms. Fortunately, the martial king realm that was breaking through was also increasing his mental cultivation while increasing his strength. This allowed him to calmly accept Yu Haoren's breakthrough of 5 small realms. However, when he saw Yu Haoren transform into a large power King Kong ape and use the staff technique that made him feel fear, his heart was like raging waves as he directly stopped his breakthrough. Fortunately, the transformation of his soul had already ended. Temporarily stopping his breakthrough didn't have much of an impact on him. At that time, he had planned to temporarily stop his breakthrough and directly go to the trial peak. Firstly, he was worried that using such a terrifying staff technique would cause his 9th junior brother to suffer the backlash of using strength that was above his level. Secondly, he also wanted to help Yu Haoren clean up the aftermath. However, just as he was about to leave the pavilion, his master's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. His master told him to focus on breaking through and not pay attention to anything related to Yu Haoren. This was also why when Yu Haoren brought the Gongsun siblings to the pavilion, they happened to meet him in the middle of his breakthrough. Thinking about how Yu Haoren was able to raise his cultivation by 5 small realms in one go when he broke through. Thinking about how, when he transformed into a large power King Kong ape, he was able to directly tear through the void with his staff technique. At the same time, Chu Zhongyu felt rather helpless, and at the same time, he didn't know what to say to him. Therefore, he could only place his attention on the Gongsun Yiming siblings. Eldest senior brother, I brought junior brother Yiming and junior sister Yudin to see you. There's something I need to trouble you with. After that, Yu Haoren told Chu Zhongyu about how to arrange for Gongsun Yiming and his sister. 9th junior brother, I will take care of these matters. Nodding his head, Chu Zhongyu thought for a moment, then instructed. In the future, you don't have to pay attention to all the chores of the peak. You just have to follow your own thoughts and do whatever you want. Through the conflict at the bottom of the trial peak, as well as Yu Haoren's various monstrous performances, Chu Zhongyu knew that Qingyun Peak could no longer give him any help or guidance for a genius like Yu Haoren, who possessed top-notch monstrous aptitude. The only thing he could do now was to not let the troublesome chores of the peak affect his cultivation, so that he could completely follow his own wishes and cultivate however he wanted. This was also the advice his master had given him when he broke through to the martial king realm. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he understood, then pointed at Gongsun Yuding and said, "Eldest senior brother, I understand. Eldest senior brother, although I have never practiced the art of fate divination, I still have some experience in judging people. I see that junior sister Yuding's bones are clear and her body is light and graceful. Her talent and potential must be very outstanding. Today just so happens to be the day that junior sister Yuding comes of age. Why don't we test her aptitude on the spot?" Although Gongsun Yuding had made a name for herself in her previous life, after her rebirth, many things in her previous life had deviated from their original path. Yu Haoran was worried that Gongsun Yuding might have some unforeseen circumstances, so he wanted to witness her aptitude test with his own eyes. "Sure." Nodding his head, Chu Zhongyu directly took out a talent stone and handed it to Gongsun Yuding. "Junior sister Yuding, you only need to drip a drop of blood on the talent stone. The color of your talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance will be clearly displayed. According to the grade of your aptitude, I can also arrange for your future cultivation." Nodding her head heavily, Gongsun Yuding took the talent stone, then bit her finger and dripped a drop of blood on the talent stone. Just as the blood entered the talent stone, two rays of white light that represented her talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance instantly appeared. Other than Yu Haoran, who knew about Gongsun Yuding's physique beforehand, the speed of the white light's appearance shocked everyone present. Chapter 356. Qingyan Peak, Qingzhou Pavilion. In just 3 seconds, the white light from the talent stone in Gongsun Yuding's hand reached its limit and was quickly replaced by a yellow light. At the same time, the yellow light reached its limit and was quickly replaced by an orange light. Although the orange light reached its limit slightly slower than the other two colors, it was only 1 second slower before it was completely replaced by a green light. At this moment, Chu Zhongyu, who had been sitting on the stone chair in the pavilion, stood up and stared at Gongsun Yuding. 5 seconds later, the green light also reached its limit and was quickly replaced by a red light. At this moment, the change in the red light's color began to slow down. However, based on the speed at which the color changed, everyone present knew that the red light was not the limit. In other words, Gongsun Yuding's talent was far beyond the peak of the martial saint realm. She had far surpassed everyone present except for Yu Haoran. 10 seconds later, a blue light quickly appeared in the red light that had reached its limit. Although the speed at which the blue light increased was also slower than the red light, based on the speed at which the color increased, the blue light was also not Gongsun Yuding's limit. When the two blue lights that represented talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance reached their limits, and a purple light appeared in the middle, even Yu Haoran could not help but breathe heavily, and his expression gradually became excited. Although his rebirth had caused many things in his previous life to deviate from their original path, it now seemed that Gongsun Yuding was not affected in any way for the time being. This made him feel much more at ease. When the blue light reached its limit, a purple light slowly appeared in the blue light. Although the amount and speed at which the purple light appeared was not as fast as the previous few colors, as long as the purple light appeared, it meant that Gongsun Yuding already had the talent of a demon. She had the potential to become a powerful cultivator like Emperor Wu. The light that represented talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance finally stopped at the light purple light. Good, very good, this is great. If it were not for the fact that Gongsun Yuding was a girl, Chu Zhongyu would have been so excited that he would have directly picked her up. Therefore, he, who was unable to vent the excitement in his heart, could only say good repeatedly. As for her biological brother, after seeing his sister's monstrous talent, he was also so excited that he couldn't speak. He could only walk back and forth. Immortal Bone. After the conflict on the trial peak, Thaling, who knew that Yu Haoran wouldn't encounter any trouble in the near future, had been sitting cross-legged on the jade bed at the top of the victor's peak. With the help of the unique aura emitted by the jade bed, he was healing the injuries to his soul. However, When Yuhaoran's sea of consciousness suddenly emitted a purple light and a trace of the aura of a special constitution that he was familiar with, he woke up from his recovery state. Thowling could not help but yell when he saw the light purple glow from the talent stone in Gongsun Yuding's hand, as well as the jade bone that was illuminated by the light purple glow. Thowling, what is an immortal bone? Hearing Thowling yell out the two words, immortal bone, Yuhaoran carefully thought for a moment. He realized that he had never heard of the two words immortal bone in his previous life, and hurriedly asked, Yuhaoran, this little girl called Gongsun Yuding has great talent and potential. You must win her over. It would be best if she could become your life partner. Without answering Yuhaoran's question, Thowling suggested that Yuhaoran pursue Gongsun Yuding and make her his woman. Thowling, you can advise me on anything, but when it comes to matters of the heart, I hope that you can follow 3 points of view. Don't ask, don't say, and don't care. Take the initiative to pursue Gongsun Yuding and make her his woman. Thowling's suggestion just now had directly touched the part of Yuhaoran's heart that he didn't want to touch the most. This caused him to angrily reprimand Thowling, which was rare for him. Okay, I didn't say anything about my suggestion just now. Seeing that Yuhaoran was really angry, Thowling knew that he had touched his bottom line. While hurriedly admitting his mistake, he also began to explain the specific origin of the immortal bone. The immortal bone is actually the name of a special body constitution. This body constitution is ranked 7th among the thousands of body constitutions. It is even one rank higher than the special body constitution that your sister Yusiki has. Warriors with the special body constitution of the immortal bone not only absorb spiritual energy hundreds of times faster than ordinary warriors, but the special structure of the immortal bone can also increase the warrior's comprehension, allowing them to better understand the realm and increase their cultivation faster. At this point, Thowling took a deep breath and continued to explain with a tone of envy and jealousy. When warriors with the immortal bone constitution break through to the martial saint realm, they will understand a special power of law. This power of law is called the law of control. The law of control is not only ranked in the top 100 among the thousands of laws, but through the law of control, one can further understand the ultimate law. Yuhaoran, if you can understand the law of control and the ultimate law, and completely merge the two types of power of law, you will eventually form the power of absolute control. Although the power of absolute control is not among the thousands of laws, the power of this power of law is not inferior to the power of law that is ranked in the top 10. Thowling, that's not right. Although Yuhaoran was very shocked by Thowling's explanation of the immortal bone, it was completely different from what he had understood in his previous life. In his previous life, Gongsun Yuding was able to shake the entire Tianxian continent because of the special body constitution that she possessed. According to what he had understood at that time, the special body constitution that Gongsun Yuding possessed was not the immortal bone, but the clear spirit constitution that was ranked 20th among the thousands of special body constitutions. Why did the clear spirit constitution in his previous life become the immortal bone in this life? Therefore, Yuhaoran directly told Thowling the question in his heart. This is very normal. After hearing Yuhaoran's question, Thowling explained without a trace of surprise. Because the characteristics of the clear spirit physique are very similar to the characteristics of the celestial bone, unless it's someone like me who has seen the celestial bone physique, anyone would mistake the special physique of this little girl as the clear spirit physique. I see. Thowling's explanation solved Yuhaoran's question, and at the same time, he could not help but feel excited. With the immortal bone constitution that was ranked 7th among the thousands of special body constitutions, Gongsun Yuding's future was limitless. He was extremely lucky to be able to take her into Qingyun Peak in advance before she started to cultivate. Next, as long as he specially trained Gongsun Yuding, he would have another capable assistant on his journey in the future. Thowling, I wonder if you have a cultivation method that specifically targets the immortal bone constitution? Chapter 357. Qingyan Peak, Qingju Pavilion. Coincidentally, one of the partners of the peerless master I followed in my previous life happened to have the immortal bone physique. In fact, even if Yu Haoran did not take the initiative to ask, Thaling would have taken out a cultivation method suitable for the immortal bone physique. Through Yu Haoran's guidance, he would have vigorously cultivated Gongsun Yuding. After all, with the immortal bone physique, Gongsun Yuding's future achievements would be amazing. Of course, Thaling had his own reasons for selfless contributions and vigorous cultivation. He just did not want to let Yu Haoran know about it for the time being. Really? Yu Haoran asked in surprise. In his previous life, he had collected a lot of top-notch mental cultivation methods. Among them, there was no lack of peak Earth rank or mid-heaven rank mental cultivation methods. However, these mental cultivation methods either focused on strength or had high requirement for courage. They were not suitable for the delicate Gongsun Yuding. Therefore, when he asked just now, he only hoped that Thaling would be able to take out a cultivation method suitable for Gongsun Yuding. He never thought about whether there was a cultivation method suitable for the immortal bone physique. That's right. Nodding, Thaling condensed the cultivation method and martial technique directly into Yu Haoran's mind. At the same time, Thaling introduced the origin of this cultivation method in detail. Yu Haoran, this mental cultivation method is called the Nine Heavens Mystic Mental Cultivation Method. It was created by the expert I followed back then. Based on the uniqueness of the immortal bone physique, his powerful cultivation base, and tens of thousands of years of life experience, he finally created the most suitable cultivation method for the immortal bone physique. Thaling, the grade of the Nine Heavens Xianyuan cultivation method. To be able to make Thaling follow a peerless master for tens of thousands of years, his cultivation must have surpassed the realm of Emperor Wu. It was very likely that he was a peerless master who had reached the martial god realm. Yu Haoran wanted to know the grade of the cultivation method created by a peerless expert in the martial god realm for his beloved partner. Surpassing the heaven rank. Even among the deity rank techniques, it is one of the top techniques. Thaling replied with a hint of arrogance. When Yu Haoran heard that the Nine Heavens Mystic Heart technique had surpassed the heaven rank and reached the divine rank, he couldn't help but gasp. He couldn't help guessing. Since she had a heaven-defying immortal bone physique and such a powerful mental cultivation method and martial skill, it was unknown what realm the beloved partner of that peerless expert had reached in the end. Fortunately, Thaling's next answer solved his conjecture. With the help of the Nine Heavens Mystic Heart technique, that expert's life partner eventually became a martial god expert. Moreover, she was also one of the top experts in the martial god realm. It's a pity. Thinking about how that peerless expert and his partners, whose strength was not inferior to his, had finally died on the battlefield when they were besieged by enemies dozens or even hundreds of times their strength, Thaling's heart was filled with sadness. If the expert he followed had listened to his advice and started to cultivate his own team early on, then he would not have had to fight alone when he was besieged by enemies hundreds of times their strength. In the end, he would not have died on the battlefield. This was also why he was willing to help Wu Jingjun and Gongsun Yuding. It was because he wanted to prevent Yu Haoran from repeating the same mistakes. Ignoring Thaling's sadness, Yu Haoran paid more attention to the first half of his sentence. With the immortal bone physique and the Ninth Heaven Mystic Heart Sutra, not only could she reach the martial god realm, but she would also be one of the top experts in the martial god realm. Was it appropriate for him to impart such a powerful mental cultivation method to Gongsun Yuding? Carefully recalling the various rumors about Gongsun Yuding in his previous life, Yu Haoran finally decided to be careful. At first, he would only impart the Ninth Heaven Mystic Heart Sutra to her before she reached the martial emperor realm. As for the remaining levels, he would decide whether to continue imparting them to her based on her cultivation progress, her trust in him, and her sense of belonging to Qingyan Peak. He told Thaling his thoughts just now, and Thaling was also very much in favor of his approach. After all, one should not have the heart to harm others, but one should always have the heart to guard against others. Ninth junior brother, It seems that you are a lucky star sent by the heavens to revitalize our Qingyun Peak. After the purple light on Gongsun Yuding's body had completely disappeared, Chu Zhongyu, who had slightly calmed down, sighed to Yu Haoran. Overturning the achievement hall, killing your way to Enforcer Peak alone, and dominating the secret territory trials. Not only did you greatly increase the prestige of Qingyun Peak, but you also brought us a large amount of cultivation resources. Now, not only have you recruited the famous junior brother Yiming into Qingyun Peak, but you have also brought junior sister Yuding, whose talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance are not inferior to yours. Speaking up to this point, Chu Zhongyu bowed to Yu Haoran and thanked him with an excited expression. Ninth junior brother, I represent the ancestors of Qingyun Peak to thank you. Ninth junior brother, I also represent Master to thank you. Lu Guangwei, who was also excited, quickly bowed to thank him. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother. Dodging Chu Zhongyu and Lu Guangwei's bow, Yu Haoran said with a firm expression, Since I, Yu Haoran, stepped onto Qingyun Peak and became Master's disciple, Qingyun Peak has been my home, and Master is my father, Yu Haoran. For the sake of my family, for the sake of my father, what you said just now is my duty and responsibility. You don't need to thank me at all. Well said. Eighth senior brother Lin Xian, who had been silent all this while, couldn't help but exclaim loudly after hearing Yu Haoran's heartfelt statement. At the same time, he spoke heroically. Ninth junior brother, Qingyun Peak is not only your home, but also mine and the other senior brothers and junior brothers' home. Our home, our father, we will protect it together. That's right, our home, our father, we will protect it together. Our home. Third senior brother Dong Mingyu, fourth senior brother Cheng Yun, fifth senior brother Huang Zonghua, sixth senior brother Pan Yuhai, seventh senior brother Xiao Nan, Wu Zhongjun, and even Gongsun Yiming and Gongsun Yuding, who had just entered the sect, could not help repeating Lin Xian's heroic words. Their eyes were full of determination. Eldest senior brother, according to junior sister Yuding's demonic constitution, I guess she is very likely to have a special constitution like Zhengjun. After everyone calmed down a little, Yu Haoran walked to Gongsun Yuding and looked at Gongsun Yuding, who was almost at his ear, and said solemnly, So, I will be responsible for Yuding's cultivation in the future. Of course. Seeing that Yu Haoran was willing to take the initiative to teach Gongsun Yuding, Chu Zhongyu and the others were very supportive. Let's take Wu Zhongjun as an example. When he entered Qingyun Peak, the talent and potential he displayed could only be considered as an ordinary top genius. However, after following Yu Haoran to cultivate, the progress of his cultivation and strength was not inferior to the top experts. This also showed that Haoran had his own unique methods and insights on how to cultivate geniuses with special constitutions. As for Gongsun Yiming, Yu Haoran was willing to sacrifice his cultivation time to personally guide his sister's cultivation. This made him extremely excited. Just how outstanding was Yu Haoran? The experience in the Blue Moon secret realm and the conflict at the bottom of the trial peak had already proved this point. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.